Chapter 3160. They stayed in the northern spiritual city. Because they were led by the powerhouses from the northern palace, everyone naturally enjoyed the best treatment and stayed in the northern spiritual city lord mansion. Moreover, the city lord treated everyone with extreme respect, especially when facing Xiao Yao and Xiao Lao. Although Xiao Yao and Xiao Lao were not from the northern region, their status was definitely the highest among the group. Their fathers were warlord warriors. Normally, no one would dare to provoke someone like the city lord of the northern spiritual city. However, he had never come into contact with a warlord realm existence. The gap was too big. Therefore, the city lord of the northern spiritual city had an instinctive fear of warlords. This also caused the city lord to be a little nervous in front of Xiao Yao and Xiao Lao. Fortunately, Xiao Yao and Xiao Lao were not bullies and did not make things difficult for the city lord. They had stayed in the city lord's mansion for a few days, and in the past few days, they had felt some strange fluctuations coming from not far away. This should be the fluctuations of the northern spiritual realm. They had never encountered such fluctuations before. Jian, Yi, and Xiao Yao sat in the courtyard drinking tea. As for the sword fanatic and Xiao Lao, these two guys who could not stay still had already gone out for a stroll. Hearing Jian Yi's words, Xiao Yao took a sip of tea and replied softly, "It should be. However, this fluctuation is very strange. There is spiritual energy, thousands of power of law, and even the law of space and time. I have never seen it before. Since you started cultivating, Xiao Yao had entered many secret realms. Because of her father, Xiao Chun, Xiao Yao had never lacked secret realms since she was young. However, with so many secret realms, Xiao Yao had never felt such an aura. This should be a sign that the northern spiritual realm was about to open. However, this aura was too strange. Not knowing what the northern spiritual realm was like, Xiao Yao and Jian, he could not help but be curious. However, from the reactions of the northern region's sky prides, the northern spiritual realm should not be simple. Otherwise, it wouldn't have attracted so many young geniuses to gather here. Within the entire northern spiritual city, everyone was waiting for the opening of the northern spiritual realm. Calculating the time, it should be within these few days. Xiao Yao and Jian, you were talking in the courtyard. On the other side, in the city, Xiao Lao and the sword maniac naturally sensed this fluctuation. The two of them did not mind. The mystic realm had not opened yet, so it was useless to say anything now. After strolling around the city, Xiao Lao said with a lack of interest, "Let's go for a drink." Xiao Lao wasn't interested in the things in the city, so he might as well go for a drink. The sword maniac didn't refuse. He nodded, and the two of them immediately found a restaurant and walked in. The restaurant was very lively. Xiao Lao and the sword maniac casually found a window seat on the second floor and sat down. Waiter, a pot of wine, and 2 side dishes. The wine and dishes were served quickly. Xiao Lao and the sword maniac started drinking. They didn't notice that the table next to them was occupied by the 2 well-dressed young men who had been paying attention to them earlier. They looked at each other and smiled. They didn't expect to meet the geniuses of the eastern region here. Without hesitation, one of them held a wine glass and walked straight to Xiao Lao and the sword maniac. "Gentlemen, it's rare for us to meet. Shall we have a drink?" The young man had a faint smile on his face. His words and actions were very appropriate. His temperament was extraordinary. It was obvious that he wasn't an ordinary person. Of course, what caught Xiao Lao and the sword maniac's attention more was the young man's aura. He was young, but his aura was definitely not weak. In the eastern region, he would be at the top of the hidden dragon leaderboard. Xiao Lao and the sword maniac immediately knew that he was the top genius of the northern region. They didn't know why the young man took the initiative to drink, but the two of them didn't refuse. Okay, the 3 of them drank. Then, the young man didn't stand on ceremony and sat at Xiao Lao and the sword maniac's table. "You know us." The sword maniac didn't wait for the young man to speak. Although the 2 of them were impulsive, they weren't stupid. Judging from the young man's actions, he obviously knew Xiao Lao and the sword maniac's identity. Otherwise, he wouldn't have taken the initiative to drink. The young man didn't hide it and nodded. "I've heard of the geniuses from the eastern region, but I haven't had the chance to meet you. Let me introduce myself. My name is Lu Fontian. The Lu clan was a big clan in the northern region, second only to the Northern Royal Palace. They had a long history and were very powerful. Moreover, the most terrifying thing was that the Lu clan's patriarch was now a king of the Northern Royal Palace. It could be said that the Lu clan had a king of the combat ancestor realm behind them. Of course, under normal circumstances, the Lu clan's patriarch rarely contacted the Lu clan. After all, he had joined the Northern Royal Palace. It was no longer convenient for him to represent the Lu clan in many things. Of course, if the Lu clan was in danger, the Lu clan's patriarch wouldn't just stand by and watch. Moreover, Lu Fontian was the leader of the younger generation of the Lu clan. He was extremely famous in the northern region. In terms of strength, he wasn't much weaker than the younger generation of the king of the Northern Royal Palace. At this moment, he took the initiative to befriend Xiao Lao and the sword maniac. It was obvious that he was very interested in the two of them. As soon as he finished speaking, Lu Fontian took the initiative to strike up a conversation. Are the two of you also here to participate in the northern spiritual realm? That's right, aren't you? Hearing this, Xiao Lao said disinterestedly as he drank. However, he quickly turned to look at Lu Fontian as if he had thought of something. Noticing the change in Xiao Lao's expression, Lu Fontian was confused. What's going on? Suddenly, he became excited. However, Xiao Lao's next sentence almost made Lu Fontian freeze on the spot. You're a genius from the northern region, right? Since you have nothing to do, why don't we spar? Xiao Lao was still the same Xiao Lao. When he saw a young genius, he couldn't help but want to spar with them. Not only him, even the sword maniac beside him was nodding his head. In terms of belligerence, he wasn't inferior to Xiao Lao. Seeing the two of them getting more excited than the other, Lu Fontian was speechless for a moment. We were talking nicely. Why did the two of them suddenly want to spar? He was speechless, but he still forced a smile. It's not easy to spar in the northern spiritual city. Moreover, it's a special period now. It's not the time to spar. It's fine. Since it's not easy to spar in the city, we could just go outside the city. How about it? It's just a simple spar. Xiao Lao still didn't give up. Lu Fontian's strength wasn't weak. It wasn't easy to find such an opponent. Since he had met him, there was no reason to let him go. Unfortunately, Lu Fontian didn't have any intention of accepting the challenge and could only decline. Forget it. The northern spiritual realm is about to open. When the time comes, we'll definitely have a chance in the northern spiritual realm. It won't be too late to spar then. Begging for collection, begging for monthly votes, begging for recommendation. End of chapter. Chapter 3161. Lu Fontian had no intention of sparring with Xiao Lao and the sword maniac. At the same time, Lu Fontian immediately got up and prepared to leave. This was because he knew that other than these two fellows, there was still a battle maniac here. Among the young geniuses, there were many who loved to fight. Just as Lu Fontian was praying in his heart that nothing would happen, a hearty laugh was heard. Haha, since you want to spar, why don't I accompany you? Along with the voice, the young man who was sitting with Lu Fontian strode over. Seeing this, Lu Fontian smiled bitterly. Well, it was still like this. The person who came was called Wu Zhan, the young sect leader of the Battle Heavens sect in the North region. The Battle Heavens sect was extremely famous in the North region. It was one of the few major forces that did not cultivate formations. One had to know that basically every force in the North region had some kind of formation inheritance. Some even specialized in formations. However, the Battle Heavens sect did not cultivate formations at all. They only cultivated their bodies. Relying on this, they became one of the few major forces in the North region, second only to the North Imperial Palace. The Battle Heavens sect's body cultivation technique was called the 100 Refinements Heavenly Art. It was extremely powerful. Once cultivated to the greater success stage, one's body would be comparable to a divine weapon. Of course, because of the cultivation technique, the disciples of the Battle Heavens sect were basically battle-hungry. Therefore, as the young sect leader of the Battle Heavens sect, Wu Zhan was even more so. Previously, He was not interested in chatting with Xiao Lao and the sword maniac. However, when he heard that the two of them wanted to spar, he was interested and took the initiative to come over. They did not know who Wu Zhan was. Moreover, looking at his luxurious clothes and elegant appearance, no one would think that he was a cultivator who cultivated his body. Sun Sheng looked at Wu Zhan. He did not feel a strong aura from him and frowned slightly. Can you do it? Don't be defeated in 2 or 3 moves. That would be boring. Well, Xiao Lao actually thought that Wu Zhan was too weak and was unwilling to spar with him. This was normal. Xiao Lao loved to fight, but he had no interest in weaklings. In Xiao Lao's eyes, opponents who could be killed in 1 move were not worth his time. He hadn't even warmed up, and it was already over. This was indeed depressing. When he heard this, even Wu Zhan was angered to the point of laughing. Amongst the younger generation of the Northern Territory, it was the first time he'd encountered someone who felt that his strength was too weak. It should be known that all along, the opponents that Wu Zhan challenged were all those who thought he was crazy, but none of them thought he was weak. Even Lu Fangtian, who was at the side, felt extremely helpless. Without answering, Wu Zhan directly released his own aura. For a moment, a terrifying spiritual energy mixed with blood, energy, soared into the sky. He used facts to respond to Xiao Lao's insistence. With the appearance of this aura, the entire restaurant seemed to have turned into a lonely boat floating on a vast ocean. It could capsize at any time. As for the customers in the restaurant, all of them kept quiet out of fear and even forgot to speak. His strength was simply too strong. His cultivation base was at the level of a world lord, but his aura was comparable to that of an ancient living being. This was the strength of a top-notch heaven's pride. Body refinement martial artist? Naturally, Xiao Lao wasn't frightened like the others. On the contrary, after sensing Wu Zhan's aura, the excitement in his eyes was even greater. The Northern Territory was basically the world of array masters. He didn't expect to meet a body refinement martial artist. Moreover, judging from his aura, it wasn't difficult to tell that Wu Zhan's achievements in body refinement were definitely not low. At least, he had surpassed anyone that Xiao Lao had seen so far. To be able to reach such a level in body refinement was rare in the world. Moreover, Wu Zhan was so young and had unlimited potential. For a moment, Xiao Lao's battle intent was completely ignited. He stood up and looked at Wu Zhan seriously. I'm sorry for what I said just now. In return, I'll fight you with all my strength. What about me? Sword Fanatic at the side said unhappily. He also wanted to fight an opponent like Wu Zhan. Seeing how eager the 3 of them were, Lu Fangtian at the side was speechless. Since things had already come to this, with their personalities, they definitely couldn't stop it. Putting everything else aside, Lu Fangtian couldn't even persuade Wu Zhan. Since they couldn't stop it, they could only settle for the next best thing. I'm afraid it's not good to fight here. Let's go outside the city. They definitely couldn't fight in the Northern Spiritual City. Although with their status, it wouldn't be a problem even if they destroyed the entire Northern Spiritual City. No one would do so for no reason. If they went outside the city, they could fight with all their might. Hearing this, Xiao Lao and the other 2 didn't object and immediately nodded. Okay, let's go now. I know a good place. It can be used as a battlefield. I say, have the 2 of you consider my feelings? Xiao Lao and Wu Zhan obviously treated each other as opponents. Sword Fanatic at the side was anxious. What should I do? Do I have to watch the 2 of them fight with my own eyes? Aren't they trying to suffocate me to death? Don't worry. After I fight with him, I'll fight with you. Knowing what Sword Fanatic meant, Wu Zhan said casually. However, hearing this, Sword Fanatic pursed his lips and had an expression that said, I don't believe you. Do you really think I'm a piece of cake? Wu Zhan's strength wasn't weak, but he definitely wouldn't fight with me after fighting with Xiao Lao. This guy overestimated himself and underestimated Xiao Lao. Therefore, Sword Fanatic understood that Wu Zhan was no longer possible. Xiao Lao didn't care about this. After the discussion, he urged everyone to set off. Soon, the 4 of them left the Northern Spiritual City and headed towards a valley in the east. Many people in the restaurant heard the conversation between the top sky prides. Naturally, It attracted many people to watch the battle. After all, this was a rare battle. The news spread quickly, from the guests in the restaurant to the other warriors. Even the young Sky Prides in the city were alarmed. Wu Zhan wants to fight with the Sky Prides from the East region. This guy really lives up to his name. He's a warmonger. But it's interesting. I wonder how strong the Sky Pride from the East region are. Since you're curious, why don't you go and see for yourself? That's what I was thinking. For a time, in addition to the ordinary warriors, many young Sky Prides also headed out of the city. What was originally an ordinary battle had evolved into a major event that shook the entire northern spiritual city in a short period of time. Everyone wanted to witness this battle with their own eyes. Even Xiao Yao, Jian Yi, Lin Feng, and Lin Shui, who were in the city lord's mansion, heard the news. What? These two guys are fighting with others again? After learning about this, Xiao Yao was speechless. She knew it would be like this. Please add, please vote, please recommend. Chapter 3162. The news of the battle between Xiao Lao and Wu Zhan had already spread throughout the entire northern spiritual city. Many warriors rushed out of the city. Even Xiao Yao, Jian Yi, and the others could not sit still. Of course, they were not afraid of Xiao Lao or the sword maniac. They were just worried that these two guys would go crazy and cause trouble. The northern spiritual realm was about to open. It was not a good time to cause any trouble. Let's go and take a look. Without thinking too much, Xiao Yao immediately made a decision. These two guys were really troublesome. Hearing Xiao Yao's words, Lin Shui, Lin Feng, and the others naturally did not have any objections. The group quickly left the city lord's mansion and headed out of the city. At the same time, in the valley where Xiao Lao and Wu Zhan were fighting, the battle hadn't started yet, but there were already a lot of people rushing over. Moreover, as time passed, more and more people were rushing over. He did not care about the others. If they wanted to watch, then let them. Staring straight at Wu Zhan, Xiao Lao's sword appeared in his hand. Let's begin. His voice was calm. Wu Zhan was not nervous at all. On the contrary, he was eager to give it a try. I'm coming. Without waiting for Xiao Lao to attack, Wu Zhan took the initiative to attack. Once he attacked, he did not show any mercy. His fist carried a terrifying force as it headed straight for Xiao Lao. They knew that the other party was not an ordinary person. Their fighting strength was extremely powerful. Under such circumstances, holding back would be disrespectful to the other party. Therefore, from the beginning, Wu Zhan had already treated Xiao Lao as an opponent of the same level as himself. This young genius from the eastern region was worthy of his full strength. Xiao Lao was also filled with excitement. Facing Wu Zhan's powerful punch, Xiao Lao did not have the slightest intention of dodging. He smiled brightly. A sword light flashed. The sword was unsheathed and directly collided with the fist. Good. It was only his first attack, but it had already caused many people to feel fear. This was the peak of the younger generation. Retreat. Some warriors with low cultivation immediately reacted and retreated far away when they saw that the two of them were about to clash head-on. Reality also proved that this choice was absolutely correct, because after this head-on collision, a crazy aftershock spread throughout the entire valley. For a moment, the unprotected valley seemed to have been flattened by a powerful force. The towering mountain peak was reduced to dust, and the terrain was completely changed. The valley was turned into a plain. This was merely the aftermath of the battle. One could imagine how powerful the two's attacks were. As for those who did not retreat in time, except for a few powerful existences, many of them were directly injured. There was nothing he could do about it. Who asked them to come and watch? Moreover, they were standing so close to him. To put it bluntly, if one didn't have enough strength, they wouldn't even be qualified to watch the battle from the sidelines. Xiao Lao and Wu Zhan did not pay attention to the actions of the people around them. They had already started fighting. Both of them could not hide the excitement in their eyes. Wu Zhan's strength was very strong, and Xiao Lao was very satisfied. This was the opponent he had been looking for. Moreover, it was the first time for Xiao Lao to fight with such a level of conjoined warriors. After all, among the younger generation in the eastern region, There was no body-refining warrior as strong as Wu Zhan. This allowed Xiao Lao to fight with all his might. Similarly, it was the same for Wu Zhan. There were very few sword cultivators in the northern region. It could even be said that there were very few sword cultivator sects. The sword Dao inheritance in the northern region was even more incomplete. This led to the fact that there were almost no famous sword cultivators in the northern region. Wu Zhan did not have the opportunity to fight with the sword cultivator who claimed to have the best attack power. But now Xiao Lao satisfied him. Wu Zhan had always been looking for a sword cultivator with such strength. On one side was the sword cultivator who claimed to have the best attack power. On the other side was the body-refining warrior who claimed to have the best defense power. Who was stronger between the two could only be known after the battle. Moreover, Wu Zhan and Xiao Lao's fighting style was very similar. There were no fancy moves. It was just a head-on fight. It was a competition of the two's true strength. Whoever was stronger would have the upper hand. Haha, refreshing. Ha! Wu Zhan could not help but laugh out loud as he punched with both fists. Although Xiao Lao did not speak, he also enjoyed this battle very much. The two of them were fighting to their heart's content, but it made Sword Fanatic, who could only watch from the side, extremely uncomfortable. Why did he let Xiao Lao beat him to such a good opponent? Sword Fanatic was extremely depressed. Just as Sword Fanatic was feeling unhappy, he suddenly saw Lu Fangtian at the side. For a moment, a thought suddenly appeared in Sword Fanatic's mind, and he could not suppress it at all. There was only to think about Wu Zhan. It would definitely not be his turn. With Xiao Lao's temper, he would not end this battle if he did not enjoy it to his heart's content. At that time, Wu Zhan would not have the strength to fight with him. However, wasn't Lu Fangtian at the same level as Wu Zhan? Both of them were top prodigies of the North region. Since Wu Zhan was so strong, Lu Fangtian should not be too weak, right? Since Xiao Lao beat Wu Zhan to the fight, then it should not be a problem for him to suffer a little and fight with Lu Fangtian. It was this thought that Sword Fanatic could not suppress once it appeared in his mind. When he felt Sword Fanatic's gaze, Lu Fangtian suddenly shuddered. It was not because of anything else, but because he was all too familiar with Sword Fanatic's gaze. Wasn't this the gaze that Wu Zhan usually had when he wanted to fight with him? What are you trying to do? Brother Lu, don't you feel itchy to fight just by watching? It's not itchy. I think this is pretty good. Why don't we have a fight too? Seeing that Lu Fangtian had no intention of fighting with him, Sword Fanatic did not hide his thoughts anymore. It was too torturous for him to watch Xiao Lao fight with someone else. So, I can only let you down, Brother Lu. Noticing the change in Sword Fanatic's gaze, Lu Fangtian wanted to escape on the spot. He was sure that Sword Fanatic was planning to use force. He wanted to force Lu Fangtian to fight with him. Damn it, three lunatics. Lu Fangtian could not help but curse in his heart. However, Sword Fanatic did not give him a chance at all. Before Lu Fangtian could reply, Sword Fanatic had already made his move. He pointed a finger sword at Lu Fangtian. He did not use his full strength in this move. It was just to force Lu Fangtian to fight. Seeing this, Lu Fangtian had no choice but to dodge and distance himself. Sword Fanatic saw this and immediately chased after him, begging for your collection, begging for monthly votes, begging for recommendations. Chapter 3163. Lu Fangtian was not interested in fighting with the sword maniac at all. These guys were a bunch of battle maniacs. They did not consider the severity of the situation at all. As for Lu Fangtian, he was basically uninterested in meaningless battles. However, when a scholar met a soldier, he could not explain himself. Lu Fangtian did not want to fight, but when faced with the sword maniac who was interested, he could not refuse at all. After he dodged the attack, the sword maniac did not give him any chance to breathe at all. He immediately rushed forward. Faced with the sword maniac's attack, Lu Fangtian was forced to fight back. However, Lu Fangtian smiled bitterly as he defended. Brother Sword Maniac, why do you have to do this? I really have no intention of sparring with you. Brother Lu, you're wrong. It's just sparring. It's nothing. Come on. As he spoke, The sword maniac's attack became more and more violent. Lu Fantian had no choice but to fight back. The sword maniac wanted to fight back. If he did not fight back, he would just stand there and take the beating. Anyway, he would not kill him. No one expected that while Wu Zhan was fighting Xiao Lao, the sword maniac was also fighting fiercely with Lu Fantian. In an instant, the four top sky prides broke out into a fierce battle. Such a scene made many people very excited. They thought that they would only see the battle between Wu Zhan and Xiao Lao. No one expected that even Lu Fantian would fight. However, at the front of the crowd, some of the people from Tianjiao of the northern region who were familiar with Lu Fantian laughed at his misfortune. Haha, Lu Fantian must have been forced to fight back. Isn't that for sure? With his temper, why would he fight back? I haven't seen Brother Lu fight in a long time. That's right. This guy usually hides his strength the best. To be honest, I'm still not sure how strong he is. The people from Tianjiao of the northern region were all secretly happy that Lu Fantian was forced to fight back by the sword maniac. It cannot be helped. Lu Fantian usually kept a low profile. It could even be said that he hid his strength too well. Although they were all from Tianjiao of the northern region, almost no one knew Lu Fantian's strength. This was because Lu Fantian had never revealed his true strength in front of others. Because of this, many Tianjiao of the northern region regarded Lu Fantian as their greatest enemy. After all, a person who hid so deeply, who knew how many trump cards he had. The unknown was the most frightening. Now that Lu Fantian was forced to make a move by the sword maniac, the Tianjiao of the northern region wanted to see how Lu Fantian was going to deal with it. At the same time, Xiao Yao, Jian Yi, and the others, who had just arrived, were speechless when they saw Xiao Lao and the sword maniac fighting each other. This was especially true for the sword maniac. Lu Fantian clearly had no intention of making a move, but the sword maniac insisted on forcing him to do so. "This brat, that's enough." Jian Yi scolded helplessly. In response, Xiao Yao spoke up. "We can't stop them now. Let's just wait." Xiao Lao and the sword maniac were already completely excited. Xiao Yao wisely chose not to stop them, because there was no way to stop them. Everything would have to wait until they were satisfied. They did not notice the arrival of Xiao Yao and the others. At this time, both Xiao Lao and the sword maniac were completely immersed in the battle. However, compared to Xiao Lao, the sword maniac was obviously a little unhappy. This was because Lu Fantian had no intention of fighting him head-on. From the beginning until now, Lu Fantian was either passively defending or dodging. This made the sword maniac very uncomfortable. What he wanted was a battle to his heart's content, not a battle where he kept chasing Lu Fantian. "Brother Lu, let's fight with all our might. Otherwise, I won't let this go." No matter what, he had to force Lu Fantian to fight with all his might today. "Brother Sword Maniac, why do you have to do this?" Lu Fantian was really unwilling to fight with the sword maniac. It was meaningless. However, the sword maniac refused to let go and did not give Lu Fantian any leeway at all. "Say no more, Brother Lu. If you don't want to make a move, then I can only force you to." As soon as he finished speaking, the sword maniac unleashed his sword realm. Lu Fantian was enveloped by the sword realm, and his expression became more and more helpless. This was really forcing him to his death. Why were all these battle maniacs acting like they were crazy? Wu Zhan was like this before and now. The sword maniac was even worse. His eyes were filled with helplessness. However, what could he do? If the sword maniac did not stop, he would be forced to fight. On the other side, Xiao Lao and Wu Zhan had already entered a white-hot stage. The two of them were violently clashing with each other. Neither of them was willing to take a step back. Wu Zhan relied on his terrifying defense and forcefully resisted all of Xiao Lao's attacks. Moreover, in terms of strength, Wu Zhan definitely had the upper hand. This was also the absolute advantage of a martial artist. Of course, Xiao Lao's attacks were obviously higher than Wu Zhan's. This was without a doubt a characteristic of a sword cultivator. "Brother Xiao Lao, if your attacks are only like this, then you won't be able to break through my defense." The most praiseworthy thing about a martial artist was their physical body. With a strong physical body, there is no doubt that their defense would naturally be stronger as well. Therefore, a martial artist could be said to be a meat shield. Some martial artists who did not have a strong attack would not even be able to break through a martial artist's defense. This was the case for Wu Zhan. After clashing with Xiao Lao for so long, his defense was still as stable as a rock. This was because until now, Wu Zhan had basically gotten used to Xiao Lao's attack strength. In his opinion, Xiao Lao's attack was very strong. There was no doubt about that. However, with his physical body, he could still successfully block it. Hearing his words, Xiao Luo laughed out loud. "You're that confident?" "That's right, brother Xiao Lao. I've already gotten used to your attacks." "Is that so?" In response, Xiao Lao did not answer and instead asked a question. He did not remember letting Wu Zhan see all of his attacks. It was a little too early for him to say this. He really did not know where his confidence came from. Without further ado, Xiao Lao held his sword with both hands and raised it up high. The corner of his mouth revealed a smile. "Wu Zhan, it's a little too early to say some things." Looking at Xiao Lao's posture, Wu Zhan suddenly felt a little nervous. He did not know why, but his intuition told him that Xiao Lao's next attack was obviously not on the same level as before. Sword of the Emperor. With a low roar, Xiao Lao swung his sword. A huge and terrifying sword edge gushed out from the long sword and instantly streaked across the sky. Seeing this sword edge, everyone present was shocked. Even the people from Tianjiao of the northern region were stunned. This attack was really too terrifying. It did not seem like something a world lord level martial artist could do. Please add, please vote, please recommend. Chapter 3164. The Sword of the Emperor was Xiao Lao's strongest attack so far. Even the sword maniac had not learned it yet. After all, he had only been Xiao Qin's disciple for a short period of time. When the sword slashed out, not only were the surrounding people dumbfounded, but even Wu Zhan's eyes flashed with a hint of fear. Previously, he was full of confidence that Xiao Lao's attack would not be able to break through his physical defense. But now, Wu Zhan felt that he could not block this attack. He did not dare to be careless anymore. Facing Xiao Lao's Sword of the Emperor, Wu Zhan gave it his all. Blood, qi gushed out from his body. This was Wu Zhan's full strength. Under the watchful eyes of the crowd, the Sword of the Emperor hit Wu Zhan hard. Wu Zhan's hands were shrouded in streaks of spiritual power. The two collided violently, and the terrifying aftershock of the battle instantly spread out. The winner is about to be decided. Everyone knew that the outcome of the battle would be decided by this attack. Everyone was extremely curious as to whether Wu Zhan could block Xiao Lao's attack. There were even many people from Tianjin of the northern region who asked themselves if they could block Xiao Lao's attack if they were in Wu Zhan's position. However, the answer that most people received was no. If they were in Wu Zhan's position, everyone realized that they could not block Xiao Lao's attack at all. In an instant, many people from Tianjin of the northern region had a higher opinion of Xiao Lao and the other prodigies from the eastern region. They were indeed very strong. Under the watchful eyes of countless people, the aftershock of the battle slowly dissipated. Xiao Lao's attack was blocked by Wu Zhan in the end. However, when the crowd saw Wu Zhan's figure again, they could not help but gasp. Even though he successfully blocked Xiao Lao's attack, Wu Zhan's arms were covered in blood. It was obvious that he was severely injured. In order to block Xiao Lao's Sword of the Emperor, Wu Zhan had indeed paid a heavy price. Even a body refinement martial artist like Wu Zhan could not block Xiao Lao's attack. For a moment, everyone was even more fearful of Xiao Lao's strength. One had to know that among the young geniuses of the North region, Wu Zhan's physical body was definitely ranked first. His defensive ability was also extremely terrifying. There were not many people in the northern region who could force Wu Zhan to such an extent with just one strike. Looking at Wu Zhan, whose arms were bleeding profusely, Xiao Luo nodded slightly. Just now, he had already used all his strength and did not hold back in the slightest, but Wu Zhan still managed to block it. Although he was injured, this was enough to prove Wu Zhan's strength. On the contrary, if Wu Zhan had blocked his Emperor's sword without being injured, Xiao Lao would probably not be able to accept it. That's right. Let's end this battle here. If we continue, I reckon that neither of us will be able to enter the northern spiritual realm. Xiao Lao had no intention of continuing the fight. It was just a normal sparring session anyway. Moreover, up until now, Wu Zhan had indeed given him a hearty battle. He had even used his trump card, the Emperor's sword, so it was time to end it. After all, it was not a life-and-death battle. Moreover, if they continued to fight, it would be just as Xiao Lao had said. Both of them would probably not be able to enter the northern spiritual realm. The northern spiritual realm was the most important. There were only a few days left before the northern spiritual realm would open. Before that, Xiao Lao and the others would definitely not allow themselves to be injured. Wu Zhan naturally would not reject this and laughed loudly. Okay, let's have another match in the future if we have the chance. Although Wu Zhan's arms were bleeding profusely, other than the terrifying defensive ability of a physique-refining martial artist, his recovery ability was also abnormally terrifying. With this kind of injury, Wu Zhan only needed to use some simple healing pills. At most, he would be able to recover in 1 or 2 days. Therefore, it would not affect the northern spiritual realm at all. The two of them stopped at the right time. Seeing this, Xiao Yao, who was watching from the side, unconsciously let out a sigh of relief. Fortunately, these two guys still knew what was most important and did not go crazy fighting. Xiao Yao appeared beside Xiao Lao in a flash and said unhappily, "You only know how to cause trouble all day long. If Father knows about this, you will suffer. Hee, isn't this just a casual spar? There's no problem." Facing Xiao Yao's scolding, Xiao Lao replied with a smile. After Xiao Lao and Wu Zhan's battle ended, the sword maniac and Lu Fantian did not fight for too long. It was mainly because Lu Fantian had no intention of fighting with the sword maniac. He was forced to fight from the beginning to the end. Therefore, after seeing Xiao Lao and Wu Zhan stop fighting, Lu Fantian also hurriedly found an opportunity to stop. Stop. Brother Sword Maniac, why don't we stop here for now? Okay, but you have to promise me one thing. Okay, I know. After the northern spiritual realm is over, I will definitely spar with you properly. Is that okay? Lu Fantian already knew what the Sword Maniac was thinking. What kind of request could a battle maniac like him make? It seemed that he could not avoid this spar. At worst, he could just wait until the northern spiritual realm was over and have a good fight with him. Feeling helpless, the Sword Maniac chose to stop after Lu Fantian made such a promise. The four people's battles ended one after another. Xiao Lao, Jin, Yi, Lin Feng, and the others also got to know Wu Zhan and Lu Fantian. Compared to Xiao Lao and the Sword Maniac, Lu Fantian obviously liked Xiao Yao and the others more. It was not because of anything else, but because Xiao Yao and the others looked more normal. They were not like Xiao Lao and the Sword Maniac, who wanted to fight with you for no reason. It could be said that friendship grows after a fight. After stopping, everyone went back to the northern spiritual city and drank to their heart's content in the city lord's mansion. They were all young people, so they naturally became familiar with each other very quickly. In the next few days, Wu Zhan and Lu Fantian would come and chat with Xiao Yao and the others every day. One side was extremely curious about the eastern region, while the other side was extremely curious about the northern region. Just like that, their relationship became much closer. After waiting calmly for a few more days, a pillar of light soared into the sky from outside the northern spiritual city in the early morning. Along with the appearance of this pillar of light, the entire northern spiritual city was completely in an uproar. Wu Zhan and Lu Fantian immediately came to the city lord's mansion and said excitedly when they saw Xiao Yao and the others, "The northern spiritual realm has opened." The appearance of the pillar of light meant that the entrance to the northern spiritual realm had completely opened. Everyone had waited here for so many days, and they could finally enter the northern spiritual realm. In this regard, Xiao Lao, Xiao Yao, and the others were naturally very excited. "Then let's go quickly," Xiao Lao said excitedly. It seemed that he could not wait for a quarter of an hour. Soon, The group left the northern spiritual city and went straight to the entrance of the northern spiritual realm. Along the way, they saw many young geniuses from the northern region. They were all people who were waiting in the northern spiritual city to enter the northern spiritual realm. At this moment, they were all rushing towards the entrance of the northern spiritual realm, seeking collection, seeking monthly votes, seeking recommendations. End of this chapter. Chapter 3165. The opening of the northern spiritual realm was naturally a major event for all the young geniuses present. After all, they came here for the northern spiritual realm. Now that the entrance had opened, everyone naturally rushed to the entrance. Xiao Lao and the others were very fast and did not delay along the way. However, even so, the entrance of the northern spiritual realm was still packed with people after they arrived. As far as the eye could see, there were countless numbers and densely packed silhouettes everywhere. However, no matter where it was, people were divided into different levels. Top geniuses like Lu Fangtian and Wu Zhan naturally had special privileges. Therefore, after they arrived, the crowd consciously opened up a path for them and allowed them to walk to the front of the crowd, which was also the place closest to the entrance. Wu Zhan and Lu Fangtian's strength had long been established in the North region. As for Xiao Lao and the Sword Maniac, many people knew that they were not ordinary people because of the battle a few days ago. Naturally, no one had any objections to them occupying the best position. In the world of warriors, strength was always the most effective rule. Whoever was strong would have the right to speak. No one found it strange. Even the other top geniuses of the North region took the initiative to talk to Xiao Lao and Xiao Yao after seeing them arrive. They wanted to make friends with them. In fact, these people did not have any special motives. They just wanted to make friends with them. As they were all young geniuses, it was understandable for them to get closer to each other. Moreover, many of them were still thinking about when they would have the opportunity to go to the East region to train. This was especially true for young geniuses like Wu Zhan who were not array masters. The North region had the most inheritance for array masters. Therefore, there were many array masters here. Correspondingly, warriors from other sects did not receive such good treatment in the North region. Therefore, if it was possible, they would go to the East region to train. Who knows? They might really encounter their own opportunities. Xiao Yao and the others did not appear to be too arrogant in the face of these people who took the initiative to express their goodwill. They smiled and nodded in acknowledgement. Then, they chatted casually. Wu Zhan, didn't you say that only the younger generation could enter the northern spiritual realm? Why are there so many old men? In the crowd, Xiao Lao did see a few old men. Although there were only a few of them, it was strange for them to appear here. With regards to this, Wu Zhan replied without the slightest concern. That's normal. After all, the northern spiritual realm is famous in the northern region. Furthermore, it's not controlled by any forces, so anyone can enter. These old fellows are basically rogue cultivators. Their lifespans are nearing their end, and they have no other choice but to try their luck. However, in my opinion, it is more like they are committing suicide. Hearing Wu Zhan's words, Xiao Lao nodded. So that was the case. Loose cultivators were indeed the most pitiful group of people. Without a backer behind them, they basically wouldn't have any great achievements. After all, those with some talent would have already joined the various major forces. As for rogue cultivators, they were basically eliminated from the very beginning. They were at the bottom of the martial arts world. They couldn't enter other cultivation mystic realms, and if they continued to cultivate normally, it would be difficult for them to make any breakthroughs. Therefore, they might as well give it a try. Perhaps there was a flaw in the northern spiritual realm that allowed them to sneak in. Of course, there was almost no such possibility. That was why Wu Zhan said that they were committing suicide. However, there was nothing they could do about it. They were going to die anyway. It was a bit sad, but this was reality. Xiao Lao didn't think too much about it. He only shook his head and sighed. People often say that martial arts can lead to longevity and control everything. However, very few people know that those who succeed are the minority. Most people don't even have a corpse left when they reach the peak. That's true. Wu Zhan was a bit surprised that Xiao Lao had such an understanding, because with Xiao Lao's identity, the things he said had nothing to do with him. As Xiao Qin's son, Xiao Lao wasn't an ordinary person from the day he was born. His martial arts path could be said to have been paved by his father. Even if he walked step by step, his achievements were definitely not something an ordinary person could compare to. Xiao Qin used his own hard work to pave a broad path for Xiao Yao, Xiao Lao, and the others. However, it was useless to be envious of his reincarnation skills. Just as they were talking, there was finally a change at the entrance. A door slowly opened within the light pillar. From within, an extremely cold aura spread out wildly. Even Xiao Yao, Xiao Lao, and the others felt a chill. The entrance has opened. Brother Xiao Yao, Brother Xiao Lao, we will be randomly separated when we enter. Just follow what we said before. Understood. As the entrance opened, Lu Fantian reminded them again. In the past few days, he had already told Xiao Yao, Xiao Lao, and the others about the things they needed to pay attention to in the northern spiritual realm. Everyone nodded. Then, they quickly entered the northern spiritual realm. As peerless sky prides, they were naturally the first batch of people to enter. After them, the other sky prides entered. As for the elders who were mixed in with the crowd, they did not make a move. They were all people who were about to die. They no longer had the heart to compete with these young sky prides. After everyone left, one of the elders said with a bitter smile, "Everyone, I'll take my leave first." The feeling that his words gave off was not that of a person entering the secret realm. It was more like he was going to die. Sure enough, as soon as this person entered the door, a terrifying power directly tore him apart. With the power of Xiao Chun and the others, they could completely ignore the laws of the northern spiritual realm and destroy the entire northern spiritual realm. However, these loose cultivators could not. They had violated the laws of the northern spiritual realm. Therefore, they could only suffer a backlash and die. The elders in the outside world entered the door of light one by one and died one by one. Within the northern spiritual realm, Xiao Yao was currently standing in a world of ice and snow. All she could see was white. It was a vast expanse of whiteness. It was as if there was nothing else in this world other than white snow. There were also large snowflakes floating in the sky. This was a world of ice and snow. This was also within the northern spiritual realm. Is this the most primitive appearance of the northern region? Not seeing any clues, Xiao Yao whispered softly. Lu Fantian and Wu Zhan had previously said that the northern spiritual realm was very strange. Its interior was exactly the same as when the northern region was first formed. It was not an exaggeration to say that the northern spiritual realm seemed to have reconstructed the appearance of the northern region when it was first formed. Begging for collection, begging for monthly votes, begging for recommendations. End of chapter. Chapter 3166. Regarding the matters of the northern spiritual realm, Xiao Yao and the others had heard about it from other people. After all, they had never entered the northern spiritual realm before. Right now, everyone was completely separated. However, it was not that there was no other way. According to what they had said before, everyone would first find an opportunity to meet up and then plan other plans. After sensing for a while, Xiao Yao quickly sensed the location of Xiao Lao and the others. Before entering the northern spiritual realm, Xiao Yao and the others each had a formation token on them. The purpose of this token was to transmit one's location. Even in the northern spiritual realm, it could still be accurately sensed. Without any hesitation, Xiao Yao quickly rushed towards the person closest to her. Along the way, it was a scene of white snow. To be honest, at first glance, the northern spiritual realm was extremely beautiful. However, after a long time, all one could see was a field of white. Thus, one would not feel anything. One would even feel annoyed. There was no other way. In front of them, there was only white snow. It was really monotonous and boring. Xiao Yao turned into a black dot in the snowy world. Just as he was hurrying on his way, a massive creature suddenly charged out of the originally calm snow. The thick snow was like an avalanche as a white monster pounced toward Xiao Yao. Seeing this, Xiao Yao immediately dodged to the side and avoided the monster's attack. Its entire body was white, and its figure was like a lion or tiger. However, there were two bull horns on its head. Its aura had reached the progenitor realm. This is the snow beast that Lu Fangtian mentioned. Looking at the huge monster in front of her, Xiao Yao's eyes flashed with curiosity. The snow beast was an existence unique to the northern spiritual realm. Unlike other monsters, only the northern spiritual realm had snow beasts in the entire northern region. Moreover, they were very powerful. It was said that the strongest snow beast recorded in the northern spiritual realm could reach the level of an ancient creature. This was already an extremely terrifying matter. However, the snow beast in front of her was only at the progenitor realm. It was not a threat to Xiao Yao. Just as Xiao Yao was sizing up the snow beast, it let out an angry roar. The snow beast didn't give Xiao Yao any chance to retaliate and immediately attacked. Its gigantic body, which was hundreds of meters long, was moving at an extraordinarily fast speed. Interesting. Whether it was in terms of aura, strength, or speed, the snow beast's battle prowess was clearly at the top of its peers. He casually pointed a finger, and a sword finger directly attacked the snow beast. Seeing this, the snow beast did not dodge and continued to charge toward Xiao Yao. However, just as the sword finger was about to hit him, a layer of ice shield suddenly appeared in front of him. He can really control the wind and snow. According to Lu Fangtian, snow beasts were born with the ability to control the wind and snow. Some of the more powerful snow beasts could even control the weather and create snow in June. That was indeed the case. Not only did the ice shield appear, but the snowflakes in the sky were also getting heavier. It was as if they wanted to bury Xiao Yao. If this snow beast had the cultivation of a world lord, perhaps Xiao Yao would take it seriously. However, it was a pity that it was only at the progenitor realm, which was far from enough. There was a huge difference in cultivation level. Xiao Yao could easily kill this snow beast without any pressure. Seeing that the snow beast had successfully blocked his sword finger and was charging towards him, Xiao Yao, who had lost interest, didn't waste any more time and casually pointed a finger again. However, the attack this time was obviously on a different level than before. As for the snow beast, it instinctively didn't dodge. Instead, it planned to take Xiao Yao's attack head-on like before. The ice shield appeared again, but this time it wasn't so lucky. The ice shield was instantly broken. It didn't even last for a breath's time and was torn apart like a piece of paper. Then, the sword radiance directly penetrated the snow beast's head. Just as it charged in front of Xiao Yao, the snow beast fell straight down at Xiao Yao's feet. Xiao Yao's expression was calm. Killing a progenitor realm snow beast was nothing to her. She didn't feel any pressure at all. She shook her head and walked away. Snow beasts were the most ordinary existences in the northern spiritual realm. Xiao Yao didn't need to worry too much. Of course, if she encountered a legendary snow beast of the ancient era, she might need to spend some effort. However, snow beasts of the ancient era were rare. Even after so many years, there were only a few people who had encountered snow beasts of this level. Once again, she approached Xiao Lao and the others. Xiao Yao planned to find Xiao Lao first. After all, he was a troublemaker. Since she wasn't by his side, she was worried that he would cause trouble. With a younger brother like Xiao Lao, Xiao Yao felt that her heart was about to break. Just as Xiao Yao was rushing towards Xiao Lao's location, Xiao Lao also encountered a snow beast. Seeing a snow beast for the first time, Xiao Lao was very excited. However, this snow beast was too weak and wasn't Xiao Lao's opponent at all. Xiao Lao killed it with a single slash. "It's so weak," Xiao Lao muttered unhappily. However, just as he finished speaking, he seemed to have thought of something and looked at the corpse of the snow beast in front of him. "You? What do you want to do?" Beside Xiao Lao, a girl looked at Xiao Lao's strange smile and instinctively felt that something was wrong. Xiao Lao didn't know this girl. He met her by chance after entering the northern spiritual realm. He didn't know why, but this girl followed behind him as soon as she saw him. Xiao Lao didn't pay much attention to this. The girl naturally knew about Xiao Lao. As a Tianjiao of the northern region, She had seen the battle between Xiao Lao and Wu Zhan. Although she also had the cultivation of a world lord, her combat power was far from Xiao Lao and Wu Zhan. Among the young geniuses of the northern region, she was considered a second-tier person. Because she knew that Xiao Lao was strong, the girl wanted to follow Xiao Lao. After all, in the northern spiritual realm, Xiao Lao was like a powerful existence. With Xiao Lao around, there was almost no danger in the northern spiritual realm. Of course, there were only a few places. I say, do you want to stay away from me? The girl's name was Chuning. Just as she was letting her imagination run wild, Xiao Lao spoke up. At first, she didn't understand what Xiao Lao meant. However, when she saw Xiao Lao walk towards the corpse of the snow beast and remove a white, round object from its body, she was stunned. You can't be thinking of... She seemed to understand what Xiao Lao meant, but Chuning couldn't accept it at all. Was this guy crazy? He actually wanted to do something like this. Please collect, vote, recommend. Chapter 3167. Crazy. This guy is definitely crazy. Chuning could not imagine that a normal person could do such a thing. The snow beast was a unique existence within the northern spiritual realm. It was also the most numerous monster within the northern spiritual realm. Moreover, the snow beast had a very unique habit. That was to devour their companions, especially the hearts of other snow beasts. And right now, the white round object in Xiao Lao's hand was the heart of a snow beast. This guy actually felt that it was not enough and wanted to attract more snow beasts. Mr. Xiao Lao, we came to the northern spiritual realm to look for opportunities. There's no need to do this. Chuning seemed to want to struggle again. He originally thought that he was lucky this time. He had just entered the northern spiritual realm and he had already found someone to rely on. But now, it seemed that this was not the case. This guy was a madman. Towards Chunying's persuasion, Xiao Lao did not care at all. Opportunities? Xiao Lao did not care about these things. He did not have anything, but he did not lack opportunities. Just the cultivation resources that his family had prepared for him were enough for Xiao Lao to steadily break through to the divine ancestor realm. As for opportunities to break through to the combat ancestor realm, was there any in the northern spiritual realm? Therefore, Xiao Lao really did not care about opportunities. Xiao Lao only wanted to fight, and this snow beast seemed to be a good opponent. He completely ignored Chunying's persuasion. He still held the snow beast's heart in his hand. It was cold to the touch and felt good. I'm going to attack. Are you really not going to leave? He turned around and glanced at Chuning. Xiao Lao was not interested in taking care of him when they started fighting. Moreover, who knew how many snow beasts would be attracted by this snow beast's heart? Anyway, according to Lu Fengtian, after killing a snow beast in the northern spiritual realm, the only thing to pay attention to was not to destroy the snow beast's heart. This was because once the heart was destroyed, it would emit a unique smell. The other snow beasts were extremely sensitive to this smell. At that time, it would attract many snow beasts and it would be extremely dangerous. This was what Lu Fengtian had specifically reminded Xiao Lao. However, if he could have predicted this situation, he probably wouldn't have told Xiao Lao about it. My original intention was to warn you to be careful, but this kid actually wanted to take the initiative to lure the snow beasts over. Mr. Xiao Lao, you cut the crap. If you want, then go away. If you don't, then I'll take action. I have no interest in dealing with you later. This woman was really troublesome. She was affecting the speed at which he drew his sword. Seeing that Xiao Lao had made up his mind, Chuning did not say anything more and retreated quickly. What kind of joke was this? Taking the initiative to provoke a snow beast was such a crazy thing. Chuning felt that it was better for him not to get involved. After Chuning left, Xiao Lao finally nodded in satisfaction. All right, let me have a good time, my snow beast brothers. As he spoke, Xiao Lao crushed the heart in his hand without hesitation. In the distance, Chuning, who had been watching Xiao Lao, saw this scene and instantly felt uneasy. What kind of F***king lunatic was this? Everyone else was always careful not to destroy the snow beast's heart, but this guy actually took the initiative to crush the snow beast's heart. After the heart was crushed, there was soon movement in the surroundings. The ground began to tremble slightly, and as time passed, the frequency of the tremors increased. "They're here." He did not need to look to know what was going on. The snow beasts were definitely here, and by the looks of it, there were quite a few of them. He just did not know what the exact situation was. If an ancient creature-level snow beast was attracted, Qinying did not dare to think about the consequences. Compared to Qinying's fear, Xiao Lao was gradually getting excited. "They're here. They're finally here." As expected, after familiarizing himself with the surroundings, 5 snow beasts appeared in front of Xiao Lao. This was only the first batch of snow beasts that had arrived. 4 of them were progenitor level, and 1 was world lord level. "Not bad. Let's begin then." Revealing a faint smile, Xiao Lao did not wait for the snow beast to make a move, and he took the lead to charge forward. With a long sword in his hand, he slashed out. The progenitor-level snow beast could not even withstand a single slash from Xiao Lao. It was directly killed. Xiao Lao's target was also very clear. It was the world lord-level snow beast. He went straight for it, and the snow beast blocked his 2 slashes in a row. There was indeed a qualitative change when one's cultivation level rose to world lord level. However, the stronger the snow beast was, the happier Xiao Lao was. If it was too weak, then it would be boring. As if it felt that Xiao Lao was looking down on it, the snow beast let out a deafening roar and went straight for Xiao Lao. Good timing. An intense battle ensued. However, it was obvious that Xiao Lao had the upper hand, and he was firmly suppressing the snow beast. As for the other 3 snow beasts, Xiao Lao did not care at all. When he had the chance, he would casually kill them with his sword. It was true that the snow beasts were very strong at the same level, but Xiao Lao was almost invincible at the same level. Moreover, Xiao Lao had not shown his true abilities until now. A snow beast at the level of a world lord was not worthy of his attention. It seemed that he did not intend to kill the snow beast so quickly. As time passed, more and more snow beasts gathered. The main reason was that Xiao Lao was constantly seeking death. For every snow beast he killed, he would crush a heart. As a result, more and more snow beasts were attracted to him. At the moment, there were more than 20 snow beasts gathered around Xiao Lao. Among them, there were 6 world lord level beasts. However, even so, Xiao Lao did not stop seeking death. He continued to crush the hearts of the snow beasts. Not bad, not bad. Now, there is some pressure. As the number of snow beasts increased, Xiao Lao finally felt some pressure. This was what Xiao Lao wanted. The number of snow beasts was not even enough for him to warm up. It was boring. Now, he was starting to feel a little better. Xiao Lao excitedly fought with the snow beasts. However, no one expected that at this moment, a terrifying aura was approaching from afar. Then, a loud roar could be heard. Looking towards the direction of the roar, a snow beast the size of a mountain was madly charging toward Xiao Lao. The aura on its body was far stronger than the other snow beasts. Moreover, its appearance was slightly different. Ordinary snow beasts only had 2 horns on their heads. However, this snow beast had 4 horns on its head. Moreover, its body was far larger than the ordinary snow beasts. Seeing that this snow beast had not left, Qinying, who was hiding in the distance, was completely confused. This is an ancient creature-level snow beast. Just now, he was still guessing whether Xiao Luo's actions would attract snow beasts at the level of ancient creatures. Who would have thought that he had guessed correctly? It's over. It's really over this time. Even the Snow Beast King has appeared. Begging for collection, begging for monthly votes, begging for recommendations. Chapter 3168. Qinying was stunned. It was not that he had never seen a battle maniac before, but he had never seen someone as crazy as Xiao Lao. This guy was definitely a lunatic. He purposely lured the snow beast to him without any regard for the consequences. Others would only attract the snow beast once at most, but this guy would crush the heart of every snow beast he killed. It could be said that Xiao Lao had not stopped attracting the snow beasts since the beginning of the battle. If this continued, more and more snow beasts would arrive. Now that even the Snow Beast King had appeared, Chuning did not know what to say anymore. The Snow Beast King was not on the same level as the normal snow beasts. It was comparable to an ancient warrior, and its strength was far beyond that of the normal snow beasts. Compared to Chunying's fear, Xiao Lao's face was filled with excitement. Looking at the snow beasts that were approaching him, Xiao Lao's face was full of smiles. Finally, a decent opponent has arrived. As for the Snow Beast King, Xiao Luo naturally knew something about it. He heard about it from Wu Zhan. He had wanted to meet the Snow Beast King for a long time. To Xiao Lao, normal snow beasts were like chopping melons and vegetables. Xiao Lao was not interested in them at all. Now that a Snow Beast King had appeared, Xiao Lao was excited. This should be a decent opponent. At least he would not be able to kill it in a few moves. Xiao Lao did not care about Chunying's shouts at all. As the Snow Beast King appeared in front of him, he did not retreat. Instead, he charged forward with his sword. Crazy, this guy's really crazy. Looking at Xiao Lao's actions, Chuning was completely speechless. He dared to challenge the Snow Beast King with the cultivation of a world lord. There was a gap of a whole realm between them. Moreover, there were many normal snow beasts around. Normal people would not dare to do such a thing. While thinking, Xiao Lao had already collided with the Snow Beast King. The Snow Beast King was obviously furious at Xiao Lao's actions. In its eyes, Xiao Lao was like an ant. Not only did he not think of running away, but he even dared to take the initiative to fight it. This was an insult to it. Roar. With a furious roar, the Snow Beast King attacked Xiao Lao with its paw. Seeing this, Xiao Lao did not dodge. Instead, he raised his sword and slashed out. The tip of the sword sliced across the sky and clashed with the Snow Beast King. However, the result was clearly not as good as he had imagined. After the Snow Beast's terrifying power shattered Xiao Luo's sword, it continued to press down on him. Xiao Luo, on the other hand, was directly suppressed by the mountain-like giant palm. Seeing this, Chuning said in a trembling voice with a cold expression, Xiao Lao completely displayed his powerful combat strength at this moment. Especially that terrifying attack. Chuning was even more dumbfounded when she saw it. She originally thought that even if she was not a top prodigy, she would not be that far behind. After all, they were both prodigies. However, Chuning helplessly realized that the gap between her and Xiao Lao was not small at all. No wonder when she challenged Lu Fangtian and the other top prodigies in the North region, they did not even bother to fight. They were all prodigies, but the gap between them was like a chasm that could not be crossed. Perhaps in the eyes of these top prodigies, the so-called normal prodigies were no different from normal people. It was also because the common people called him that it gave people an illusion. That was, top geniuses and ordinary geniuses were all geniuses and could be compared to each other. However, this was a big mistake. The difference between the two was like heaven and earth. They could not be mentioned in the same breath. A helpless smile appeared on Chunying's face. It was only at this moment that she realized that normal prodigies like her had never been taken seriously by the top prodigies. It was laughable that she had thought that she could fight against the top prodigies. Even if she could not win, she would at least be able to fight back. Please add, vote, recommend. Chapter 31:69. Looking at Xiao Luo, who was fighting fiercely with the Snow Beast King, Chuning had mixed feelings. On one hand, she was speechless about her childish thoughts. On the other hand, she was amazed at how powerful these top prodigies were. She had seen Wu Zhan and Xiao Lao fight before. However, Xiao Lao was not as powerful as he was now. When the two of them sparred, they probably didn't even use their full strength. She did not know what Chuning was thinking. However, even if she knew, Xiao Lao would not care. At this moment, Xiao Lao was extremely excited. This Snow Beast King was a good opponent. Not only was it powerful, but its skin was also very thick. According to Xiao Lao, it was very durable. It would not be killed in 2 or 3 hits. Xiao Lao had killed many snow beasts before. Now, he had been fighting with this Snow Beast King for a long time. He felt that he was almost done. Let's rest for a while after killing you. The other snow beasts had been killed by Xiao Luo, and only the snow beast king was left. Xiao Luo was indeed feeling a little tired by now. Being aggressive did not mean that he was stupid. Xiao Lao was even more so. He planned to stop after killing the snow beast king. Such an intense battle was enough for Xiao Lao. Xiao Lao's eyes turned cold. Thinking of this, his attacks became even fiercer. It's about to end. Chuning could tell that Xiao Luo wanted to kill this snow beast king. Perhaps it was because she was too shocked before, but she calmed down instead. Although the snow beast king was very powerful and had a higher cultivation level than Xiao Lao, it was not impossible for Xiao Lao to kill it. Now that Xiao Lao was serious, the snow beast king was at a disadvantage. It did not look like it could hold on for long. No new snow beasts were coming, and the snow beast king could not hold on for too long. It seemed that there was no danger. Just as Chuning was thinking this, another angry roar came from afar. Hearing this, Chen Ying's face instantly darkened. Another snow beast king came. This was going to be troublesome. With Xiao Lao's strength, it was impossible for him to fight against two snow beast kings alone. Even Xiao Luo revealed a helpless, bitter smile at the corner of his mouth. Looks like things have gotten out of hand. Xiao Lao knew that it was impossible for him to fight two snow beast kings at the same time. He would definitely lose. With a helper, the snow beast king was clearly energized. It looked at Xiao Lao with a murderous gaze. It was this ant that had nearly killed him earlier. Now that his companions had arrived, he had to kill him today. The second snow beast king was very fast. Xiao Lao did not think much about it, and immediately crushed the token that he had prepared beforehand. This was something that Xiao Yao had prepared before entering the northern spiritual realm. If he encountered any danger in the northern spiritual realm, he could just crush it. Xiao Yao and the others would be able to sense it immediately. He could only ask his brother for help. He definitely had no way to deal with it. Just as Xiao Lao crushed the token, Chuning hurried over. She looked at Xiao Lao anxiously. Let's go. We can't fight against two snow beast kings. You haven't left yet? Seeing Chuning, Xiao Lao was a little surprised. This woman hadn't left yet? She had been watching from the side. After being asked by Xiao Lao, Chen Ying's face instantly turned red. Was she concerned about him? Even so, she could not admit it on the surface. Therefore, Chuning directly said, let's go first. Now is not the time to talk about this. We can't leave. It was too late to leave now. Sure enough, just as Xiao Lao finished speaking, the second snow beast king rushed out from the deep snow and immediately joined the battle. With two snow beast kings surrounding them, it was impossible for them to leave now. Seeing this, Chen Ying's face turned pale. Was she also caught in the crossfire? Just now, Chen Ying had rushed forward without thinking. She did not know why, but she just did not want to see Xiao Lao die in front of her. Now, she did not manage to save him, and she was also caught in the crossfire. On the other hand, Xiao Lao was very calm. He did not panic and only said a few words. Stay close to me. Otherwise, I can't guarantee that I can save you. We can't escape. Two snow beast kings are not something that we can fight against. Chuning was already in despair. However, Xiao Lao did not say anything else. Women were troublesome. On the other side, Xiao Yao, who was rushing over, also sensed that Xiao Lao had crushed the token. She frowned and increased her points again. What is this kid doing? He just entered the northern spiritual realm, and he's already in danger? If it was not a life and death crisis, Xiao Lao would not have crushed the token. With Xiao Lao's strength, what kind of situation could he not handle? Xiao Yao really could not understand. Could it be that he was ambushed? That cannot be right. If there were not more than two elite prodigies, even if Xiao Lao could not defeat them, he could still leave safely. As for elite prodigies, how many of them could there be in the entire northern region? She really could not understand what this kid was doing. Xiao Lao, why don't you leave? The two of us really can't leave together. On the other side of the battle, Chuning said in despair. He could see that Xiao Lao was desperately trying to stop the two snow beast kings. However, he would not be able to hold on for long. If he abandoned him and let Chuning be the bait, perhaps Xiao Lao would have a chance to leave. Hearing this, Xiao Lao was stunned. He turned to look at Qining and said speechlessly, "Are you serious?" "Yes. If we stay, both of us will die. It's always good if one of us can leave." Seeing that Qining did not show any signs of acting and looked extremely sincere, Xiao Lao was speechless and twitched his mouth. These women were always like this. They would always make you sad. The reason why he dared to act so crazily was because he had a backup plan. Why should he run? As long as Xiao Yao and the others arrived, the two snow beast kings would be easily killed. "Don't worry and stay behind me. We won't run." He was too lazy to explain anything to this woman. Moreover, now was not the time. Hearing this, Qining did not understand. Not leaving? Why would he stay? Was he looking for death? Could it be that Xiao Lao wanted to die from the very beginning? Luckily, Xiao Lao did not know what this woman was thinking. Looking for death? Why would he look for death? Wasn't he playing around too much? Who would have thought that he would attract two snow beast kings? Previously, Lu Fontian had said that there were very few snow beast kings in the northern spiritual realm. Previously, even one snow beast king was hard to come by. Who would have thought that he would attract two at once? This was something that he did not expect at all. Anyway, Xiao Lao did not think that he would die. Soon, Xiao Yao would definitely appear. This came from the trust between brothers. Begging for collection, begging for monthly votes, begging for recommendations. Chapter 3170. Xiao Lao was still trying his best to hold on. It was obviously impossible for him to win against two snow beast kings at the same time. However, it should not be a problem for him to hold on until Xiao Yao arrived. Xiao Lao was not nervous at all. About 15 minutes later, even Qining was in complete despair because the injuries on Xiao Luo's body were getting worse and worse. On the other hand, she was not hurt because of Xiao Lao's protection. However, this was not something to be happy about. Once Xiao Lao was seriously injured, Qining knew that she would definitely die. At this moment, a sword light flashed from afar and hit one of the snow beast kings hard. Xiao Luo finally revealed a smile when he saw the sword gleam. "You're here." Xiao Lao was very familiar with the aura of this sword light. If it was not Xiao Yao, who else could it be? After holding on for so long, he finally arrived. On the other side, Xiao Yao rushed over and saw Xiao Luo being attacked by two snow beast kings. He frowned, and his eyes were filled with helplessness. She did not need to ask to know what happened. Xiao Lao must be in a daze again. However, now was not the time to blame him. What else could she do? She had to save Xiao Lao first. Without thinking much, Xiao Yao immediately joined the battle. As Xiao Yao arrived, Xiao Lao laughed loudly. "Big brother, help me block one. Leave the other one to me." "Shut up." He almost lost his life. She did not know why this guy was so excited. She scolded him angrily. Then, Xiao Yao rushed towards one of the snow beast kings. With Xiao Yao's arrival, the situation changed instantly. Xiao Lao also turned from defense to offense. Qining looked at the two brothers and sighed in relief. However, she was still curious. What kind of family could raise two brothers like this? No matter if it was Xiao Yao or Xiao Luo, their battle prowess was too terrifying. However, even though the two of them were blood brothers, their battle styles were poles apart, completely different. In other words, Xiao Lao was like a violent warrior, while Xiao Yao was like a graceful knight. In terms of power, Xiao Yao was far inferior to his brother. But every time Xiao Yao attacked and dodged, it seemed to be just right. It would be too much if it was too little, and too little if it was too little. Watching Xiao Yao fight was an enjoyment. Under the cooperation of the two brothers, the two snow beast kings did not last long and were killed. As the two snow beast kings fell, Xiao Lao smiled and greeted Xiao Yao. "Luckily, Big Brother came quickly. Otherwise, I would have died. You still dare to say that? I already told you that you can't act tough in the northern spiritual realm. Do you think you were still outside? If I came a little later, you would have died in the hands of these two beasts." Xiao Lao did not give him any face and shouted angrily. Regarding this, Xiao Lao did not care at all. After all, he had heard this kind of scolding countless times since he was young. It no longer had any effect on him. According to his own words, Everything was under his control, and he was confident that he could survive. Humph. I'm too lazy to talk to you. Seeing that Xiao Lao did not listen to her words, Xiao Yao snorted and did not say anything else. This guy was a complete pain in the ass. There was no other way. This place was definitely not safe. After Xiao Lao's nonsense, who knew if more snow beasts would appear? Therefore, after the battle ended, Xiao Yao's first reaction was to take Xiao Lao and leave this place. After briefly introducing Chuning, Xiao Yao did not ask much. She only nodded slightly. For an ordinary genius like Chuning, Xiao Yao did not pay too much attention to her. So what if she was a very beautiful woman? Xiao Yao still did not care. The three of them left the place and only slowed down when they reached a safe place. Previously, when Xiao Lao crushed the token, Lin Feng, Lin Shui, Xiao Wan, and the sword maniac must have seen it on the way. Therefore, Xiao Yao left a mark on the way so that everyone could find her faster. All right, let's take a rest. We'll wait for Lin Feng and the others to arrive. Since Xiao Yao had appeared, he was naturally in control of the situation. Xiao Lao could only obey. After all, he was the older brother, even though he was only born a few minutes before Xiao Lao. They found a secluded place to rest. After spending some time with Xiao Yao and Xiao Lao, Chuning became visibly nervous. When Xiao Yao saw that Chuning was nervous, he smiled and said, "No need to be like that. We are not ferocious beasts. Since we met, let's be friends." "All right. Thank you, Xiao Yao bro." The three of them chatted idly. Very quickly, the sword maniac was the first to arrive. As soon as he saw Xiao Yao, he angrily scolded him. "You really don't care about the code of brotherhood. You made such a big scene, and you didn't even wait for me." The sword maniac was obviously talking about the snow beast corpses. On the way here, the sword maniac saw many snow beast corpses. With one look, he knew that they had been killed by someone. And that person was Xiao Lao. After all, the wound was caused by a sword. In response, Xiao Lao twitched his mouth and said, "Who asked you to not be here? How can you blame me? To think that I always think about you. Next time, don't get involved. That won't do. If you were in danger, how could I not save you? Then I really have to thank you." The two of them were sarcastic as soon as they met. They didn't know how to be humble at all. Xiao Yao was already used to this. What kind of words could these two crazy people have to say when they were together? On the other hand, Chuning was curious. When he heard the two of them bickering, he couldn't help but laugh. Hearing this, the sword maniac finally noticed Chuning. He immediately looked at Xiao Lao with an expression that all men understood. "As expected of you, Xiao Lao. You got the hang of it so quickly. This woman is not bad. You have good taste." "What nonsense are you talking about?" The sword maniac obviously thought that Chuning was Xiao Lao's woman. This wasn't a big deal. After all, this was a very normal thing. On the other hand, Chunying's face turned red. She lowered her head and didn't dare look at Xiao Lao. She had only known Xiao Lao for less than a day. To be honest, Chuning didn't have any feelings for Xiao Lao, but she definitely didn't hate him. What's more, Xiao Lao was very strong and had an extraordinary family background. Who would reject such a man? Xiao Yao didn't pay attention to the two of them bickering. As time passed, Lin Feng, Lin Shui, Xiao Wan, Dongfang Lin, and Jian Yi arrived one after another. As everyone gathered and Chuning was introduced to everyone, Xiao Yao and Jian Yi began to discuss their next move. There were many good things in the northern spiritual realm. Begging for collection, begging for monthly votes, begging for recommendations. End of chapter. Chapter 3171. We should be at the periphery of the northern spiritual realm now. Xiao Yao, Jian Yi, and Lin Feng sat together. Everyone had trained together many times, so they had a tacit understanding. Under normal circumstances, Xiao Yao, Jian Yi, and Lin Feng were the decision-makers. As for Xiao Lao and the sword maniac, they were two battle maniacs. It was impossible to expect them to give any opinions. So naturally, Xiao Yao, Jian Yi, and Lin Feng had already begun to discuss their next move. According to the three of them, the next step was definitely to go to the core of the northern spiritual realm. After all, There were no treasures or opportunities in the periphery. Even if there were, they would not be interested in it. Moreover, Lu Fengtian and Wu Zhan had both said that the core was the most attractive place in the northern spiritual realm. There was no disagreement, so it was quickly decided. How about it? Do you want to come with us? After making a decision, Xiao Yao looked at Chen Ying and asked. Anyway, this woman was brought by Xiao Lao, so there was no problem with bringing her along. However, Chen Ying had an excited expression as she replied to his question. Can I? Why not? If you want to come with us, you are so weak. What opportunities can you find in the northern spiritual realm? This time it was Xiao Lao who spoke. The first half of the sentence was fine, but the second half made Chen Ying choke. Listen, what are you talking about? Xiao Lao naturally did not care about this. Although Chen Ying was a little speechless, she still nodded and agreed. What a joke. Only an idiot would refuse such a good thing. Xiao Yao, Xiao Lao, Jian Yi, the sword maniac, and Lin Feng were all top geniuses. Even if Lin Shui, Xiao Wan, and Dongfang Lin had not reached the level of top geniuses, they were far stronger than her. It would not be an exaggeration to say that a team of 5 peerless geniuses would be able to do whatever they wanted in the northern spiritual realm. They would not be afraid of anyone. With such a terrifying plastic surgery, how could Chen Ying reject it? Seeing Chen Ying nod his head, everyone immediately set off and rushed towards the core area of the northern spiritual realm. Along the way, Lin Shui followed beside Xiao Lao and asked with an unfriendly look, Tell me, do you like her? Ooh, it's that Chen Ying. No, I just met her. How could I like her? Xiao Lao was speechless. He really didn't have any thoughts about Chen Ying. He was just casually asking. Moreover, from Xiao Lao's point of view, it wasn't a problem to bring a young girl along. Hearing this, Shui Lin's face turned slightly better. Along the way, they did encounter some snow beasts, but they were easily dealt with by Xiao Lao and the sword maniac. With these 2 battle maniacs around, there was no chance for anyone else to attack. The rest of them were happy to be idle. Especially Chen Ying, this feeling was great. It was as if she was taking a stroll in her own backyard. Every time she encountered a snow beast, it would be dealt with by Xiao Lao and the sword maniac before she could react. Even if the snow beast king appeared, Xiao Lao and the sword maniac could easily deal with it. Just like this, everyone went deep into the northern spiritual realm without any obstructions. After walking for more than a day, a white palace appeared in the distance. Moreover, many people had already gathered there. Let's go and take a look. Seeing this, Xiao Lao said excitedly and rushed towards it. Xiao Yao and the rest could only follow closely behind. When everyone arrived in front of the White Palace, they realized that there were already hundreds of people gathered there. Seeing Xiao Yao, Xiao Lao, and the rest, many people had a strange look in their eyes. These people from the Tianjiao of the northern region were not familiar with Xiao Lao and the rest, but they knew that this group of people were sky prides from the eastern region. Moreover, they were not weak and were very strong. Facing everyone's gazes, Xiao Yao and Xiao Lao ignored them and looked directly at the White Palace in front of them. Rather than calling it a palace, it was more like a huge mountain peak. However, there's a large door on top of the mountain peak. Is this a natural formation, or is it man-made? They asked uncertainly. In response, Xiao Yao said, I think so. How could nature form something like this? This palace is the North Pole Palace. It is very famous in the northern spiritual realm. It is a training ground. It is said that it is related to the final northern spiritual temple. At this time, Chen Ying spoke. As a sky pride of the northern region, she obviously knew more than Xiao Yao and Xiao Lao. With her explanation, everyone finally understood what the North Pole Palace was. In the northern spiritual realm, there were a total of 4 palaces in the 4 directions that led to north, south, east, and west. No one knew how these 4 palaces appeared. However, in order to truly enter the core area of the northern spiritual realm, one must pass through the trials of these 4 palaces and obtain their recognition. To put it bluntly, this was an elimination. It was the first elimination after entering the northern spiritual realm. Those who could not pass through the 4 palaces could only wander around the periphery of the northern spiritual realm. They could not enter the core area to fight for the true treasure. So that's how it is. Interesting. Hearing this, Xiao Lao smiled slightly. In response, Chen Ying's face turned red. She did not dare to look Xiao Lao in the eye. The North Pole Palace had not opened yet. Therefore, everyone waited here. As time passed, more and more people would arrive. Just as the group of people waited patiently like everyone else, a day passed, and another group of people also arrived outside the North Pole Palace. However, the leader's face instantly turned gloomy when he saw Chen Ying. Without hesitation, he strode toward Xiao Yao, Xiao Lao, and the others. He directly looked past Xiao Yao and Xiao Lao towards Chen Ying and coldly shouted, "Chen Ying, why are you here?" Hearing this, Chen Ying's delicate body clearly shook. She lowered her head and did not dare to look at the youth. She did not know how to answer. Perhaps because of Chen Ying's actions, the youth guessed something. Looking at Xiao Yao, Xiao Lao, and the others who were with her, the youth's face turned even uglier. He could not help but angrily shout, "What are you standing there for? Come here." This cold shout caused Chen Ying's eyes to be filled with fear. However, right at this moment, a hand gently patted her forehead. She looked up and realized that it was Xiao Lao. Xiao Lao said with a smile, "Don't worry, you won't be taken advantage of here." After speaking, without waiting for Chen Ying to reply, Xiao Lao turned around and looked at the youth. He curled the corner of his mouth and said with disdain, "You're so annoying." "I say, aren't you annoying? Also, you're a man. Why are you yelling at a woman? If you have something to say it properly." Xiao Lao did not know the relationship between Chen Ying and the youth. Therefore, he did not directly attack. However, the youth's arrogance made Xiao Lao very unhappy. Therefore, he scolded him, begging for collection, begging for monthly votes, begging for recommendations. In a chapter. Chapter 3172. After being reprimanded by Xiao Lao, the young man's expression turned even uglier. He looked coldly at Xiao Lao. Did these guys really think that they were in the East region? How could a group of outsiders be so arrogant? What's your relationship with Chen Ying? The look in his eyes had become unfriendly. However, Xiao Yao, Jin Yi, and the others did not care about it. What a joke. To be honest, they had never been afraid of anyone since they were young, and they had never been at a disadvantage. Moreover, Xiao Chen had always said that if you were at a disadvantage in a fight between peers, you deserved it. Even if you were killed by others, it was because you were not as good as others. They would not interfere in the disputes between peers, but if someone bullied the young, the Xiao family would not be afraid. Because of this, they were not afraid of the prodigies of the younger generation. As for background, it was even less of a concern. Anyway, if someone bullied the young, their father would naturally back them up. Xiao Yao and the others had seen such things too many times and had long been used to it. Just as Xiao Lao was about to speak, Chen Ying suddenly stepped forward and looked at the young man with an ugly expression. "Wang Xian, don't mess around." Chen Ying took the initiative to help Xiao Lao out. Obviously, she did not want Xiao Lao and Wang Xian to have any conflict. Wang Xian was Chen Ying's fiancé. Of course, Chen Ying had no feelings for him at all. It was all because of the Wang family's strength. As an old family in the North region, the Wang family was very powerful and could be compared with the Battle Heavens sect that Wu Zhan was in. In addition, the Wang family was an old family of array masters, and one of the patriarchs in the family was the king of the North Imperial Palace, an existence of the Battle Ancestor realm. With all these factors added together, it could be said that almost no one in the North region dared to provoke the Wang family. The Chen family that Chen Ying was in did not dare to offend the Wang family. Therefore, after Wang Xian took a fancy to Chen Ying, they could only agree to their marriage. This was also the reason why Chen Ying showed such fear when she first saw Wang Xian. But now, for the sake of Xiao Lao, Chen Ying took the initiative to step forward. Little did she know, this only made Wang Xian even angrier. Looking coldly at Chen Ying, Wang Xian was so angry that he laughed. "Hey, bitch, I've said it before. You better not challenge my bottom line. Otherwise, the entire Chen clan will be buried with you. And you, I don't care what your status is in the Eastern region, but this is the Northern region. Now that you're here, Even if you're a dragon, you'll have to coil up, and if you're a tiger, you'll have to be held by me. Otherwise, I won't let you leave the northern region alive. Arrogant. These words were truly arrogant. However, the surrounding sky prides of the North region did not find anything wrong with it, because the Wang clan was indeed capable of this. Although Wang Xian could not be considered the strongest person in the Wang clan's younger generation, Wang Xian was a genuine direct descendant of the Wang clan. Moreover, he was extremely favored in the Wang clan. Coupled with the Wang clan's usual style of doing things, it was really possible for them to do such a thing. One had to know that over the years, the Wang clan had destroyed many forces and bullied others with their power. If it was anyone else, after being threatened by Wang Xian like this, they might really be terrified. Unfortunately, he encountered Xiao Luo. What *T background and family. To be honest, ever since he was young, Xiao Lao had never been afraid of anyone. In short, ever since Xiao Lao could remember, he only knew one thing. No matter who they were compared to, the Xiao clan would always be the strongest. They did not care if you had a background or not, because you could not be stronger than them. Your Wang clan's patriarch was the king of the Northern Imperial Palace, in existence of the combat ancestor realm. Sorry, my father and your patriarch are at the same level. So is there a need to compare? Ignoring the nervous Chuning, Xiao Lao turned to look at Xiao Yao. Brother, can I kill him? The other people did not react to the sudden sentence, but Xiao Yao knew what her brother was thinking. She nodded helplessly. This Wang Xian was indeed annoying. So be it if he was to be killed. Seeing that Xiao Yao had agreed, Xiao Lao's face suddenly revealed a smile. Then, he grabbed Chunying's arm and pulled her behind him domineeringly. Women should not interfere in men's affairs. Go aside and watch. Chunying had good intentions, but Xiao Lao had no intention of hiding behind a woman. Xiao Lao, wait. Chunying wanted to stop this, but unfortunately, no matter if it was Xiao Luo or Wang Xian, neither gave him a chance. Before she could finish speaking, Wang Xian interrupted her. What? You want to attack me here? I advise you to think carefully. Offending the Wang clan in the northern region is not a wise choice. Wang Xian's words were obviously directed at Xiao Lao, and the threat in them was self-evident. In response, Xiao Lao shook his head in disdain. Another piece of trash who only knows how to rely on his family. I don't want to talk nonsense with you. You have 3 breaths to get out of my sight, or you will die. This could be considered giving Wang Xian another chance. Unfortunately, with Wang Xian's personality, how could he endure such humiliation? He was used to being revered by others, and no one had ever dared to slander him like this. Even if Wu Zhan and Lu Fengtian looked down on him, they would still not speak to him in such a tone for the sake of the Wang clan and his elder brother. You're looking for death. Wang Xian's face immediately darkened, and he scolded angrily. Seeing this, Xiao Lao did not waste any more words and chose to attack. He had given him a chance, but he did not cherish it, so he could not blame anyone else. He directly slashed out with his sword, and the tip of the sword went straight for Wang Xian. Seeing this, Wang Xian did not dare to be careless. He immediately took out a formation diagram and activated the formation. In an instant, it protected him. As an old family of array masters, Wang Xian had no lack of array masters. This was the advantage of being an array master. As long as there were enough formations, the strength of the formation could be greatly increased. Regardless of whether it was an offensive formation, a defensive formation, or a trapping formation, it was the same. The tip of the sword fiercely hit Wang Xian's formation. After the two of them clashed for a while, they both disappeared at the same time. The first sword did not manage to hurt Wang Xian. In response, Xiao Lao did not say much. Instead, Wang Xian said proudly, "Save it. I know you are a top genius, but the formations on my body are enough to protect me. You can't kill me." He thought that he could fight Xiao Lao with the formations on his body. In response, Xiao Lao could not help but laugh. He was sure that the formations on Wang Xian's body were not drawn by himself, because with his cultivation, it was impossible for him to draw formations of this level. At the very least, one would need to be an expert of the divine ancestor realm to be able to draw formations of this level. Relying on an external force to block his casual sword strike, Xiao Luo didn't understand where this guy's confidence came from. It should be known that without the protection of the formation, Wang Xian would have already died, begging for collection, begging for monthly votes, begging for recommendations. Chapter 3173. Facing the confident Wang Xian, Xiao Lao curled his lips speechlessly. He really did not know where this guy's confidence came from. Was it worth it for him to be so happy after blocking his sword with an external force? He spoke as if he was very powerful himself. Xiao Lao did not bother to talk nonsense. He slashed his sword again. Seeing this, Wang Xian activated another formation and successfully blocked Xiao Lao's attack. Watching the two of them fight, the people at the side began to discuss softly. Sigh, offending the Wang family in the North region is not a wise choice. That's right. The Wang family is used to being domineering all these years. Lord North King also owes the players a favor, so he won't show up unless it's a last resort. All right, if it weren't for this, the Wang family wouldn't be so arrogant. Relying on the fact that the North King is indebted to them, the Wang family is getting more and more overboard. But what can they do? Their strength is there for all to see. In the eyes of the people, Xiao Lao definitely did not dare to kill Wang Xian because no normal person would do so. The Wang family was indebted to the North King. Even if Xiao Lao and the others were suspected to have a background in the Emperor Dong's palace, this was the North region after all. As for the North King, it seemed like he was biased towards the Wang family. To be honest, it was because of the North King's protection that the Wang family became more and more arrogant. After all, as long as it did not cross the bottom line, the North King would turn a blind eye. Many people in the North region knew that the Wang family had helped the North King greatly when he broke through to the Emperor's stage. Because of this, after the North King dominated the North region, the Wang family also rose in status and became a powerful force in the North region. These people were not the only ones. Seeing that he could not stop Xiao Lao, Qining hurried to Xiao Yao and said anxiously, "Brother Xiao Yao, hurry up and stop Xiao Lao. The Wang family is not simple. They are connected in countless ways. They can even use the power of the Emperor Dong's palace." Qining naturally knew about the Wang family and the Northern Imperial Palace. If Xiao Lao really killed Wang Xian, the Wang family would definitely be enraged. At that time, even with Xiao Lao's status, it would probably be difficult for him to resolve the matter. However, Xiao Yao only smiled in response. "It's fine. Father will make the decision on these matters. You, Brother Xiao Yao, the Wang family is not simple. The North King is indebted to them." Left with no choice, Qining could only bring up the North King. He could only hope that Xiao Lao would not really blow things up. Otherwise, it would be really difficult to clean up the mess. At that time, I will be enraged. Coupled with the Wang clan, Xiao Yao and the others probably won't be able to return to the eastern region. Unfortunately, just as Qining finished speaking, a blood-curdling scream suddenly rang out. Wang Xian had been using the array to block Xiao Lao's attacks. After a few moves, Xiao Lao was clearly tired of it. Although Wang Xian's array was not bad, it was a pity. After all, it was not made by him. He could only use it as a treasure. Facing an opponent who only knew how to rely on external forces and was weak himself, Xiao Lao was really not interested. Since he was not interested, he naturally wanted to end the battle as soon as possible. Hence, after breaking Wang Xian's array with one strike of his sword, Xiao Lao did not give Wang Xian any time to continue activating the second array. In a flash, he appeared in front of Wang Xian. The long sword in his hand also pierced through Wang Xian's heart without hesitation. "In front of me, you don't even have the time to activate the array," Xiao Lao said calmly. This was not a bluff. It was the truth. If Xiao Lao wanted to, he could have killed Wang Xian immediately. Even if he had many arrays to protect him, if he could not even activate them, then what was the use? Facing Xiao Lao's indifference, Wang Xian's entire face was filled with fear and disbelief. Perhaps he had never thought that Xiao Luo would dare to kill him, and in front of so many people. From the moment he made his move, Wang Xian only treated it as a game. This was because he did not believe that someone would dare to kill a direct descendant of the Wang family in front of so many people. Moreover, it was an extremely favored direct descendant like him. Although it was not that no Wang family members were killed in the past, they were all assassinations. Almost no one had seen it. He had long forgotten how long it had been since a member of the Wang family was killed in front of so many people like this. Feeling a cold aura flowing through his body and the light in front of him getting weaker and weaker, Wang Xian used the last of his strength to speak. "How dare you? There's nothing I don't dare to do. I already said that I would kill you." Xiao Lao did not change in the slightest because he had killed Wang Xian. It was just Wang Xian. It was nothing to him. Sheathing his sword, Wang Xian's body fell straight to the ground. Until this moment, many of the prodigies present had yet to react. The young master of the Wang family, the famous hedonistic son of the North region, Wang Xian, really died just like that? Someone unconsciously swallowed hard. He could not believe the scene in front of him and asked the person beside him, "Is that really Wang Xian? Is he really dead?" "It should be. The sky is about to be pierced through." Everyone spoke one after another. On the other side, the young prodigies who came with Wang Xian were all horrified as if they had eaten a fly. They were all people who wanted to cling onto Wang Xian. Of course, it was not because of Wang Xian's strength, but because of Wang Xian's background. But now Wang Xian was dead. What should they do now? Would the Wang clan blame them if they were enraged? For a moment, these people were terrified. They knew the Wang family's methods very well. "Damn it! How dare you kill young Master Wang Xian? You're courting death." Someone could not help but shout angrily at Xiao Lao. But only a sword gleam responded to him. The sword gleam slashed across, and this person's head flew into the air. Another person was killed. Xiao Lao even dared to kill Wang Xian. These small fries did not have the slightest pressure. Moreover, these guys were very annoying. Xiao Lao was not even interested in answering them. He directly killed them and then looked at the few of them indifferently. Who else wants to accompany him down there? As soon as these words came out, these people were instantly speechless. They could already tell that this was an audacious lunatic who even dared to kill Wang Xian. What else did he not dare to do? He did not have the slightest pressure to kill small fries like them. Just you wait. You won't be able to leave the North region. The Wang family will not let you off. Knowing that he was no match for Xiao Lao, he did not dare to go head-to-head with Xiao Lao at this time. He could only leave behind some harsh words. Then, he carried Wang Xian and the other person's corpse and left in a hurry. Xiao Lao did not stop him. There were 2 corpses. So what if he carried them away? Begging for collection, begging for monthly votes, begging for recommendations. Chapter 3174. No one would have thought that things would end up like this. Wang Xian, a direct descendant of the Wang family, was killed just like that in front of so many people. And the killer, which was Xiao Luo, didn't change his expression at all from beginning to end, as if he had done something insignificant. It's over. Wang Xian is dead. This is going to get out of hand. Xiao Lao was so calm, but Qining did not have the same courage. Seeing Wang Xian's body being carried away, Qining kept talking. Obviously, she had already guessed what would happen next. Slowly coming back to her senses, Qining walked in front of Xiao Lao with a guilty expression. "Xiao Lao, it's all my fault. I've implicated you all." In Chun Ying's opinion, if it wasn't for him, how could Wang Xian possibly have a conflict with Xiao Luo and the others? How could Xiao Luo possibly kill Wang Xian and provoke such a colossus like the Wang family? With regards to this, Xiao Luo waved his hand without a care. "It's fine. It's just the Wang family. There's no need to be afraid. You don't understand. There are many experts in the Wang family. It's not as simple as it seems." Xiao Lao's talent was high, and his combat power was indeed strong. However, he still could not compete with the entire Wang family. It could even be said that if the Wang family wanted to kill Xiao Lao, it would not be too difficult. However, Xiao Lao also had his own background. If the Wang family really dared to make a move on him, his father would probably teach them a lesson. Don't think too much. You don't have to worry about the Wang family bullying the weak, beating the weak, and the old coming after them. This kind of thing would never happen to Xiao Yao and the others again. They waited for the opening of the North Pole Palace as if nothing had happened. After what happened just now, apart from Xining, none of the Tianjiao of the northern region dared to provoke Xiao Yao, Xiao Lao, and the others. Everyone was happy about this. Anyone could see that this group of people was a group of lunatics. They even dared to kill Wang Xian. What else did they not dare to do? Encountering such a ferocious person, if one couldn't afford to offend him, one could only hide. The northern spiritual realm had temporarily regained its peace. However, in the outside world, the Wang family's encampment was currently in a mess. The entire world was the private territory of the Wang clan. From this, one could see how powerful the Wang clan was. On one of the central continents, in the Wang family ancestral mansion, many auras soared into the sky. More than a dozen Wang family elders were gathered in the main hall. On the main seat, the current head of the Wang clan, Wang Zheng, glared furiously. The fury in his eyes was about to burst out. Damn it! Who is it? Who dares to kill Xian? Wang Xian was Wang Zheng's youngest son. He was also spoiled by Wang Zheng since he was young. However, who would have thought that he would be killed in just one trip to the northern spiritual realm? Just now, Wang Xian's nameplate was shattered, which shocked many people in the Wang family. With Wang Zheng's personality, this matter would definitely not be settled peacefully. This was indeed the case. After learning of Wang Xian's death, Wang Zheng flew into a rage and swore to tear that person into pieces. Xian went to the northern spiritual realm. He should have been killed by some prodigy. Yes, it's impossible for the older generation to enter the northern spiritual realm. Only the younger generation can. However, with Xian Er's strength and the life-saving items on him, unless it's a prodigy, it's impossible for ordinary people to kill him. The elders of the Wang clan quickly analyzed the situation. Furthermore, the culprits were almost all the top heaven's favorites. After all, other than them, ordinary prodigies simply did not have the ability to kill Wang Xian. However, at this point, the faces of the Wang family elders turned ugly. This was because the prodigies of the northern region were not ordinary. Even if the Wang family was powerful, they could not easily offend these powerful forces. Although these forces were not as powerful as the Wang family, they could not be underestimated. In the northern region, the Wang family was not afraid of anyone other than the Northern Imperial Palace. However, if they wanted to start a war with these powerful forces, it would definitely be a painful thing for the Wang family. Unless it was a last resort, the Wang family was obviously unwilling to go to this step. However, Wang Zheng obviously did not care about this. Whoever dared to kill my son, they must pay the price. Send someone to the northern spiritual realm to guard it. I want to see who dared to kill Xian. No matter who it is, if they don't hand him over, then we'll just kill them. Wang Zheng had obviously made up his mind. No matter what, he would avenge his son. Hearing Wang Zheng's furious words, the elders could only nod in agreement. When they found the murderer, they would negotiate with the forces behind him. Due to the power of the Wang family, they should still be able to negotiate. However, it was hard to say. After all, he was a top genius. Who would hand him over so easily? According to Wang Zheng's intention, if they did not hand him over, then they could only start a war. They responded respectfully. Soon, the powerhouses of the Wang family headed towards the northern spiritual realm. Moreover, as a precaution, the Wang family sent a powerhouse of the divine ancestor realm to lead the team. There were also 3 powerhouses of the ancient era's realm. Such a facelift was definitely very powerful. Unaware of the Wang family's reaction, in the Northern Imperial Palace, Xiao Chun, Lin Yin, Lai Wan, and the others were drinking and chatting. Counting the time, it has been a few days since those little guys entered the northern spiritual realm. Yes. Hearing this, Xiao Chun nodded. Lai Wan, who was beside him, laughed mischievously. How is it? Is the nameplate okay? Although they could not enter the northern spiritual realm, Xiao Chun and the others could know if Xiao Lao, Xiao Yao, and the others were still alive through the nameplate. Obviously, until now, Xiao Yao, Xiao Lao, and the others' nameplates had not changed at all. Don't worry about it. With the strength of those little guys, they should be thanking the gods that they did not kill others. That's true. I've been worrying too much. Lai Wan knew the strength of Xiao Yao and Xiao Lao. It was not a joke to say that they were invincible among their peers. He still remembered that when these little guys had just arrived at the Emperor Dong's palace, they had quarreled with the young supreme talents of the Emperor Dong's palace many times. Both sides could be said to have fought. Young people would definitely be more hot-tempered. However, what was unexpected was that after a few rounds of fighting, Xiao Yao, Xiao Lao, and the others had beaten those little bastards of the Emperor Dong's palace into submission. They had integrated into the circle of the young supreme talents of the Emperor Dong's palace with brute force. At that time, Jian, Yi, and Sword Fanatic did not exist. Now, with these two people, there should not be any danger in the northern spiritual realm. Moreover, what reassured Xiao Qin the most was not how strong they were, but their unity. There was no doubt about the feelings of these little guys. There was no such thing as betrayal. Therefore, as long as they were united, there should not be any problems. Begging for collection, begging for monthly votes, begging for recommendations. In a chapter. Chapter 3175. Xiao Chun and Lin Yun were not too worried about the safety of Xiao Yao and Xiao Lao. These little guys were not as weak as they had imagined. On the contrary, these little guys were all devil incarnate existences. Of course, Xiao Chun and the others still did not know that Xiao Lao had killed Wang Xian. Furthermore, the Wang family was enraged by this and swore to make the murderer pay with his life. There were not many changes in the outside world. After all, the opening of the northern spiritual realm was only very attractive to the younger generation. Since the older generation powerhouses could not enter, naturally, not many people paid attention to it. At the same time, outside the North Pole Palace, after waiting for half a day, the North Pole Palace finally had some movement. The stone door slowly opened. Seeing this change, Chening was the first to speak. It's opened. The North Pole Palace's trial has opened. After a few hours of rest, Chening had recovered quite a bit. Although he was still worried about the Wang family's revenge, since it had already happened, there was no other way. Different situations call for different actions. At least they were still safe within the northern spiritual realm. The Wang family could not enter. The only person he needed to worry about was Wang Xian's elder brother. He had also entered the northern spiritual realm. However, Wang Xian's elder brother should not know that Wang Xian had been killed. Therefore, he did not need to care too much about it. It was better to solve the current situation first. After leaving, he would see if the Northern Imperial Palace had any solutions. No matter what, Xiao Yao and Xiao Lao were all from the eastern region. The Northern Emperor should not cause too much trouble. Chening thought this, but Xiao Lao did not care at all. Or rather, he had already thrown the matter of killing Wang Xian to the back of his mind. At this moment, as the North Pole Palace's trial had opened, Xiao Lao's eyes were filled with excitement. He only had eyes for the North Pole Palace's trial. It's finally opened. I've waited for half a day. Elder brother, let's go. Xiao Lao was the first to stand up. After greeting Xiao Yao, he strode toward the entrance. In the face of Xiao Lao and the others' actions, the others naturally did not dare to stop them. They all obediently took the initiative to step aside and let Xiao Lao and the others enter the North Pole Palace first. This was the privilege that came with strength. Since the other party was strong, they naturally had priority. It was just like the discovery of a treasure. Treasures were only known to those with strength. This was the consensus of everyone. Xiao Yao, Xiao Lao, and the others were already used to such treatment and entered the North Pole Palace. It was not until Xiao Lao and the others disappeared from the North Pole Palace that the others began to move. It was very dark. After entering the North Pole Palace, there was a long passageway. It was pitch black all around. There was no light at all. There's a formation. Xiao Yao immediately guessed that there should be an array formation in the North Pole Palace. Just like now, everyone's senses were greatly suppressed by the power of the formation. Their eyes could not see anything at all. Even their divine senses were greatly suppressed. They could only expand to a range of 1 meter. Fortunately, their divine senses were not completely suppressed. Otherwise, everyone would really be blind and deaf. Even if they encountered any danger, they would not be able to detect it immediately. Is this the test at the beginning? If so, I'm afraid many people will be eliminated. Even Xiao Yao and Xiao Lao's divine senses were greatly suppressed. Those ordinary sky prides would probably not be able to extend their divine senses to sense their surroundings. Without the perception of divine sense, the eyes could not see anything, so the final result could be imagined. After walking for a short while, Xiao Yao, who was at the front, suddenly stopped. "What's wrong?" Seeing this, Xiao Lao asked curiously. Xiao Yao did not answer. Instead, she picked up a stone and threw it forward. The stone landed on the ground. In an instant, a formation was activated. It was a terrifying attack formation. Flames instantly enveloped the entire space. It was very powerful. Even if Xiao Yao and Xiao Lao were to fall into it, it would be difficult for them to escape. Although they would not be killed, they would definitely be seriously injured. A formation, huh? However, Xiao Lao did not take it to heart. I wonder how many people will be able to pass the North Pole Palace's trial. Ignoring Xiao Lao, Xiao Yao said indifferently, "This was only the beginning." However, according to Xiao Yao's estimation, 80% of the people outside would not even be able to pass through this passage. This was because they could not sense the hidden formation in this passage. Once they stepped on it, they would definitely be seriously injured or even die. According to the unexpected ratio, only a few hundred people will be able to pass the Four Pole Palace's trial. Chuning spoke at this moment. It was a very low ratio. So many people had entered the northern spiritual realm, but only a few hundred people would be able to pass the Four Pole Palace's trial. The others were all eliminated. They obviously did not have the qualifications to enter the core area of the northern spiritual realm. Xiao Lao and the Sword Maniac were not interested in this kind of ambush formation. The two of them liked to fight. Therefore, the job of scouting was naturally handed over to Xiao Yao, Jian, Yi, and Lin Feng. The three of them walked to the front. With their abilities, they did not encounter any danger along the way. Every time there was a hidden formation, the three of them would be able to discover it immediately and break it. Following behind the three of them were Xiao Lao, the Sword Maniac, Lin Shui, Dongfang Lin, and Chuning. They were very relaxed. They did not have to worry about anything at all. All dangers would be dealt with by the three bosses in front. Is this the feeling of hugging someone's thigh? It's so easy. Chuning could not help but have such a thought. If he wanted to pass through this passage by himself, it would probably take a lot of effort, and he would not have absolute confidence. But now, with Xiao Lao and the others by his side, he did not have to worry about anything. He just had to follow them. There was no danger at all. Soon, the group of people safely passed through the dark passage. They did not care about how long they had walked. When everyone's vision was restored, they had already appeared on a plain. This should be a self-contained space. It was not too strange for the North Pole Palace to have a self-contained space. However, what Xiao Yao and the others were concerned about was that the plain in front of them was a bit strange. There was not a single blade of grass growing on the ground. The ground had already dried up and cracked. The sky was blood red. The most eye-catching thing was the statues that stood on the plain. Each statue was 3 meters tall. Looking at it, there was no end in sight. There were probably at least millions of them. There were so many statues, it was as if they were grass growing on the plain. Begging for collection, begging for monthly votes, begging for recommendation. Chapter 3176. Looking at the large number of puppets, Jian Yi smiled and shook his head. You don't want us to defeat all these puppets, do you? This could only be considered a joke. After all, there were too many puppets, and they didn't know how strong they were. But Jian Yi didn't expect that a simple joke would actually come true. This is the origin of puppets. It seems that our luck isn't too good. Chuning said. There were many trials in the North Pole Palace, and the origin of puppets was only one of them. The passageway that everyone had just walked through was actually just an appetizer. It was just a passageway to enter the trial. The origin of puppets was the real trial. Everyone who entered the North Pole Palace had to face a random trial. After passing through the deep entrance, they would be randomly sent to a different trial. As for Xiao Yao and the others, it was obvious that they had drawn the trial of the origin of puppets. As for passing the trial, it was actually very simple. They just had to defeat these puppets. That's right, just as Jianyi said, they could pass through the origin of puppets by defeating all these puppets. Who would have thought that a simple joke would actually come true? Wasn't this a joke? Hearing Chun Ying's words, Jianyi was clearly stunned. So I jinxed it. Just as they were talking, the puppets on the plane slowly moved. One by one, the puppets rose from the ground, as if they were moving their bodies. They were activated. They were activated. All of the puppets had been activated. Seeing this scene, Jianyi felt a little helpless. But Xiao didn't care and smiled. I'll leave it to you too. This time, fight to your heart's content. They didn't seem to be worried about these puppets. Don't forget, there were two battle maniacs among them. Xiao Lao and the sword maniac might not be able to help with other things, but when it came to everyone, these two guys were definitely experts. And the origin of puppets was definitely a good place for these two to show off their skills. After all, there was no need to think. All he had to do was fight his way through. Once he dealt with these puppets, he would naturally be able to pass through the marionette plane. Therefore, this requirement was practically tailor-made for Xiao Lao and the sword maniac. Don't worry, leave it to us. Hearing Xiao Yao's words, Xiao Lao immediately nodded in agreement. He was good at fighting. Without much thought, Xiao Lao and the sword maniac immediately attacked. One on each side, they charged straight into the group of puppets. Looking at these puppets, their strength was generally at the progenitor realm. Some of them had reached the level of world lords, but there were not many of them. Xiao Lao and the sword maniac should be able to handle this. With these two fellows taking action, Xiao Yao and the others were completely free. Xiao Yao said with a smile as she sat down cross-legged and watched the intense battle between the two. Sometimes it's still useful. Of course, she was referring to Xiao Lao and the sword maniac. These two fellows usually did not use their brains at all. Moreover, every time they went on an adventure, they were just there to be bystanders. But now, it seemed that these two fellows were not completely useless. In a situation like this, Xiao Lao and the sword maniac's usefulness was fully displayed. There was no need for them to fight these puppets at all. They just had to wait for Xiao Lao and the sword maniac to deal with them. Brother Xiao Yao, come, this is the wine I brought out. Jianyi also came to Xiao Yao's side and sat down. She took out a bottle of wine and poured everyone a glass. Judging from the number of puppets, Xiao Lao and the sword maniac would need at least a day to deal with them. After all, millions of puppets could not be dealt with in an instant. Taking the wine from Jianyi's hands, Xiao Yao took a sip. She was not worried about Xiao Lao and the sword maniac's safety at all. Seeing that everyone was acting as if they were on an outing, Chun Ying could not remain calm. Brothers, this is the North Pole Palace's trial. How can you be so relaxed? It was not that Chun Ying had never entered the Northern Spiritual Realm before, but he had never seen such a scene before. In the North Pole Palace's trial, there were actually people drinking and chatting. Okay, everyone has their own tasks. Anyway, Xiao Lao and the others will deal with these matters. Hearing Chun Ying's words, Xiao Yao smiled indifferently. The corner of his mouth twitched crazily. Was this the difference between a top prodigy and an ordinary prodigy? The North Pole Palace's trial that others could not pass, even if they risked their lives, became so easy for Xiao Yao and the others. It was as if they were strolling in their own backyard. Comparisons were odious. He had never thought that he would be able to drink and chat in the North Pole Palace's trial one day. Everyone chatted as they waited for Xiao Lao and the others to finish their battle. After about a day, Xiao Lao and the sword maniac finally finished off these puppets. After finishing off the last puppet on his side, Xiao Lao grabbed the wine jug and took a big gulp. Phew, not bad. The wine from the East region is still the best. After a big battle, Xiao Lao's face was not red, nor was he out of breath. It was as if he had not used up any energy at all. Seeing how relaxed Xiao Lao was, Chuning called him a freak in his heart. It should be known that even a top prodigy would have a time when the spiritual energy in their body was exhausted. However, Xiao Lao did not rest for an entire day. He had been in a high-intensity battle and had killed more than 500,000 puppets. However, in the end, he was completely fine. Even his aura did not weaken much. Chuning could only call him a freak. If it were her, there was no doubt that she would have been exhausted and out of breath. Needless to say, how much spiritual energy was left in her body. Chuning did not know that the amount of spiritual energy in Xiao Lao's body was at least 3 times more than a warrior of the same level. Even the sword maniac, who was also a top prodigy and had the same level of cultivation as Xiao Lao, still had far less spiritual energy than Xiao Lao. It was about a cup's worth of difference. Therefore, Xiao Lao seemed to be tireless since he was young. All of this was attributed to his bottomless spiritual energy reserves. This was innate and could not be changed. It was also the embodiment of Xiao Lao's terrifying talent. "You're a little faster than me again." Xiao Lao took a sip. After about 10 breaths, the sword maniac's battle also ended. Compared to Xiao Lao, the sword maniac's aura was obviously a little weak. This was a sign that he had used up too much spiritual energy. Of course, this was only a small problem. After eating some spiritual energy recovery pills, he would be able to recover quickly. "It's your fault for being so weak. I went easy on you. Get lost." The two of them teased each other. At the same time, a light door slowly appeared in front of everyone. "Please collect, vote, recommend." In a chapter. Chapter 3177. The appearance of the light door meant that everyone had passed the test of the marionette's origin. Looking at the light door in front of him, Chunying's head was still buzzing. He never thought that he would pass the North Pole Palace's test so easily. He didn't even need to fight. He just sat with the others and drank some wine. Just like that, he passed. Was the North Pole Palace's challenge that simple? He couldn't help but ask himself this question. Normally, the North Pole Palace's challenge wouldn't be that simple. However, with Xiao Lao and Xiao Yao leading him this time, it really wasn't that difficult. "Okay, let's continue." Xiao Yao stood up and patted his butt. Since they had already passed, there was no need to stay here any longer. Hearing this, the others also nodded. The group directly stepped into the light door and disappeared. The North Pole Palace's test had a total of 3 stages. Those who passed could directly reach the location of the token. This so-called token was the pass to enter the core area of the northern spiritual realm. There was a natural formation inside. Only those who held the token could pass through the entrance to the core area. Otherwise, they could only wander around the periphery. For this token, Xiao Yao and Xiao Lao were naturally determined to obtain it. Since they were already here, they naturally couldn't just wander around the periphery. Moreover, the things in the periphery didn't interest them at all. In the entire northern spiritual realm, the true treasures were all in the core area. This was also the reason why. This was the reason why every time the northern spiritual realm opened, everyone would rush to enter the core area. The next 2 stages were still not that difficult for everyone. They passed it easily. After all, Xiao Lao and the sword maniac were the ones to fight. As for the things that required thinking, Xiao Yao would be the one to make the decision. Xiao Yao and Xiao Lao. The two of them had perfectly inherited all of Xiao Chen's strengths. One inherited the brain, while the other inherited the combat strength. When the 2 brothers were together, it felt like they were invincible. In any case, along the way, the 2 brothers had already made Chuning numb to it. The northern spiritual realm, which was supposed to be filled with danger, was as simple as taking a stroll in a garden in front of the 2 brothers. Chuning was still in a daze, even after the 3 tests were over. He passed just like that. Chuning could not help but think to himself when he saw everyone appear in a large hall. There was nothing in the hall, not even a single pillar. There were only 30 tokens floating in the center of the hall. However, there was a layer of restriction around the token. Xiao Lao tried to break the restriction, but he could not break it with brute force. This restriction will only be activated after everyone has passed the test. That is also the final test of the North Pole Palace, to compete for the token. Every token represented a spot to enter the core area. Therefore, the competition would be very intense. Right now, Xiao Yao and Xiao Lao were the first batch of people to pass the North Pole Palace's test. Only after the others passed or failed the test would the seal be lifted. At that time, whoever could obtain the token would naturally depend on their own abilities. The strongest would obtain it. Seeing that there was no way to obtain the token, there was no way to leave. Xiao Lao was bored and found a place to sit down. As he drank, he complained, "These guys are really slow. How long do we have to wait for them to arrive? Do you think that everyone is a monster like you?" Regarding this, Chuning thought gloomily. Of course, she would not say this out loud. There was no other way. Everyone could only choose to wait. Within the large hall, Yin Ran became the backyard of Xiao Yao, Xiao Lao, and the others. Everyone drank and chatted. For a moment, it was very lively. After an unknown amount of time, someone finally passed the first 3 tests. It should be 2 people. When they appeared in the large hall, they immediately heard a burst of laughter. They had a strange expression. This should be the final fight for the token in the northern spiritual realm, right? Why was there laughter? Looking towards the source of the sound, they immediately saw Xiao Yao, Xiao Lao, and the others drinking. Only then did they understand. So it was them. From the looks of it, they had been here for quite some time. The 2 of them looked towards Xiao Yao and the others. At the same time, everyone else naturally looked towards the 2 of them. Xiao Luo was even more dissatisfied as he complained. "I say, your speed is a bit too slow." Slow? Regarding this, the 2 of them were helpless. To be honest, it was not that they were too slow. It was that this group of people was too abnormal. How could the Northern Palace's test be so easy to complete? It was already very good that they could pass it so quickly. One must know that there were many people who could not even pass the test, let alone participate in the fight for the token. With so many people entering the Northern Palace, it would be considered good if there were at least a few hundred people who could make it here. However, they were too lazy to talk nonsense with Xiao Lao and the others. After all, Xiao Lao had killed Wang Xian in front of everyone. From the perspective of these people from Tianjiao of the northern region, as long as they left the northern spiritual realm, Xiao Lao and the others' fate was obvious. They would definitely be taken down by the Wang family. At that time, it was unknown whether they would be able to leave the northern region alive. From the perspective of the people from Tianjiao of the northern region, the Wang family was not to be offended. Therefore, they naturally avoided Xiao Lao and the others. No one wanted to be implicated because of some groundless matters. Seeing that the 2 of them did not say anything and just sat down on the side, Xiao Lao curled his lips and did not say anything else. It was obvious that they did not want to bother with him. Since that was the case, Xiao Lao did not have the habit of sticking his warm face to their cold butts. If you don't want to bother with me, then so be it. If you don't want to bother with me, then I don't want to bother with you either. Just like this, the 2 sides were at peace. As time passed, more and more people from Tianjiao of the northern region passed the previous test. They appeared in the main hall one after another. Every prodigy who entered the main hall could not help but have a fiery look in their eyes when they looked at the tokens in the center. This was what they wanted the most. The core area was the place that they dreamed of. That was where the opportunities that they had been searching for were. Everyone wanted these tokens, but it was obvious that it was not enough. After all, there were only 30 tokens in total, and there were already more than 100 people in the main hall. There were more and more people, but without exception, these people from Tianjiao of the northern region did not hesitate to distance themselves when they saw Xiao Lao and the others. They did not want to provoke Xiao Lao and the others, but they also did not have the slightest intention of befriending them. They even had the feeling that they were actively avoiding them. There was no other reason other than the Wang family. They were afraid of being implicated by the Wang family and inviting trouble to themselves. It was that simple. Begging for collection, begging for monthly votes, begging for recommendations. End of chapter. Chapter 3178. With so many geniuses gathered in the main hall, the atmosphere naturally became more and more tense. After all, those who were able to appear here were all outstanding geniuses who had passed the previous 3 rounds of tests. It could be said that they had already been screened once and were the truly powerful young geniuses. In addition, everyone knew that everyone here could become their opponent because everyone wanted to obtain the token. Or rather, they had entered the North Pole Palace, no, the Northern Spiritual Realm, for the tokens. Only by obtaining the tokens could they enter the core area. However, among everyone, Xiao Yao and Xiao Lao were an exception. Not only were they not nervous at all, they even laughed from time to time. It was as if they were in their own backyard. Indeed, they did not put these people in their eyes. With Xiao Yao and Xiao Lao's eyesight, they could see that there were indeed 1 or 2 outstanding geniuses among the crowd. Their strength was not weaker than theirs, but what about it? 2 outstanding geniuses were still not enough in front of Xiao Yao and Xiao Lao's group. Xiao Yao, Xiao Lao, Jian Yi, Sword Maniac, and Lin Feng. The 5 of them were all outstanding geniuses. There was such a huge gap in numbers. Therefore, the 2 outstanding geniuses could only tuck their tails between their legs in the main hall. They were not afraid of a one-on-one battle, but 2 against 5? There was no need to say what the final outcome would be. After waiting patiently in the main hall for a few days, finally, as the last few people entered the main hall, the array protecting the tokens finally moved. It's about to begin the fight for the tokens. Seeing this scene, everyone suddenly opened their eyes and looked at the tokens in the center with burning eyes. After waiting for so long, everyone had been waiting for this moment. The array dissipated little by little. The moment it completely dissipated, the 30 tokens would appear in front of everyone. At that time, it would be like the 8 immortals crossing the sea and showing off their remarkable abilities. Whoever had the ability would be able to obtain these tokens. Under everyone's gaze, the array finally dissipated completely, and the 30 tokens appeared in front of everyone without any obstruction. However, a strange scene also appeared at this moment. In the face of these tokens that everyone yearned for, no one chose to make a move at this moment. Everyone present was a fool. They knew very well that at this moment, with so many pairs of eyes staring at them, whoever made the first move would be at a disadvantage. Everyone looked at each other, full of vigilance, but had no intention of taking the initiative to make a move. The entire main hall became very quiet. There were clearly 200 to 300 people gathered here, but it was so quiet that one could hear a pin drop. After waiting for about 100 breaths of time, in the end, Xiao Lao was the first to stand up. His gaze swept across the surrounding people, and he said with a smile, "Since no one is going to make a move, why don't we go first? 9 tokens." 9. Xiao Lao said to himself, and took away the 9 tokens as soon as he opened his mouth. It was not that Xiao Lao was greedy, but that there were 9 of them. Of course, this included Chunying. Hearing this, the others were stunned. Chunying's face turned slightly red. Xiao Lao had included him. He did not know why, but Chunying was secretly delighted. 9 tokens? Don't you think you're a little too greedy? However, it was obvious that everyone present was not willing to let Xiao Lao take away 9 tokens at once. What a joke. There were only 30 tokens in total. If 9 were taken away at once, what about the others? Someone spoke, and it instantly attracted the support of many people. The person who spoke was one of the 2 elite prodigies who died in the main hall. He looked at Xiao Lao calmly. He was not frightened by Xiao Lao. Xiao Lao was not angry at this. Instead, he seemed to have expected this and said with a smile, "Greedy? That's not right. Treasures belong to those who are capable. If you're not convinced, come and fight." Someone objected. To Xiao Lao, it was easy to deal with. They could just fight. If you're not convinced, I'll beat you into submission. If that doesn't work, I'll just kill you. Hearing that Xiao Luo didn't care about the crowd at all, many people's eyes were filled with anger. However, Xiao did not step out to stop them. "Brother Xiao Yao, aren't you going to stop them?" Chunying looked at Xiao Yao worriedly and asked. If this continued, Xiao Lao would obviously anger everyone. When that happens, it would be troublesome. Although Xiao Yao and the others were very strong, there were still 300 prodigies here. However, there were more than 300 prodigies here. Even if they were not as strong as Xiao Yao and Xiao Luo, they were still outnumbered. Moreover, none of the people who could appear here were simple. However, Xiao Yao shook his head and said with a faint smile, "Don't worry. No need, because from the beginning, we were outsiders." What public anger! This was all for show. To be honest, even if Xiao Lao did not say anything, these people from Tianjiao of the northern region would reasonably target them. The reason was simple. They were xenophobic. In the eyes of these people from Tianjiao of the northern region, Xiao Yao and Xiao Lao were not on their side. From the bottom of their hearts, they would reject them. This was normal. It was just like when the prodigies from the northern region went to the eastern region, they would encounter the same situation. It was fine at other times. However, when it came to fighting for treasures, this kind of xenophobia would explode. Therefore, all this was not because of Xiao Lao. It was a fact that could not be changed. Every place had its own circle. If you were new here, you would need time to integrate into this circle. Needless to say, people like Xiao Yao and Xiao Lao were just passing by, quietly watching the situation develop. At this moment, as Xiao Luo's voice faded, the Heaven's Pride who spoke before slowly stood up. There was a smile on his face, but his eyes were filled with coldness as he spoke. "I know that you are very strong. However, do you really think that you can deal with all of us here with just a few of you? You should know that this is the northern region after all. People from the eastern region are not allowed to act presumptuously here." As soon as he said this, more than 300 prodigies from Tianjiao of the northern region stood up together. Without a doubt, they used their actions to prove their words. This prodigy was not stupid. He knew how to influence the crowd. He said that this was the northern region and people from the eastern region were not allowed to act presumptuously here. Instantly, Xiao Yao and Xiao Lao were separated from the rest. "Yes, we are the Tianjiao of the northern region. You are the prodigies from the eastern region. How can we allow you to act presumptuously at this time? Please add, vote, recommend." Chapter 3179. This elite prodigy was not stupid. Upon hearing his words, Xiao Yao's lips curled into a smile. Interesting. She was not too nervous. On the contrary, she looked extremely interested as she looked at this elite prodigy with a burning gaze. "You could still smile?" Seeing Xiao Yao's expression, Lin Feng pursed his lips. The current situation was not good. With so many prodigies from Tianjin of the northern region joining forces, it would not be easy for them to deal with them. Hearing this, Xiao Yao said unhurriedly, "It doesn't matter. Besides, it's not as complicated as you think." After saying that, Xiao Yao came to Xiao Lao's side. Jin Yi and the sword maniac did the same. In the face of hundreds of prodigies from Tianjin of the northern region, Xiao Yao and Xiao Lao were not afraid at all. "How about it? Do you still want to snatch these tokens?" Looking at Xiao Yao, Xiao Lao, and the others, the elite prodigy who had spoken earlier smiled, as if everything was under his control. "Why not?" In response, Xiao Yao replied with a smile. Hearing this, the elite prodigy's face instantly turned cold. "Since you refuse a toast only to drink a forfeit, I'm sorry." As he said that, the elite prodigy directly attacked. Seeing this, the other prodigies from Tianjin of the northern region also followed closely behind. This was already a matter between two camps. In the eyes of the prodigies from the northern region, no matter what the reason was, the tokens must not fall into the hands of Xiao Yao, Xiao Lao, and the others. If these prodigies from the eastern region were to directly snatch 9 tokens in their own territory, it would definitely be a great insult to them. Therefore, at this moment, the prodigies from the northern region could be said to be united against a common enemy. They wanted to stop Xiao Yao, Xiao Lao, and the others. In response, Xiao Lao's face revealed an excited smile. "Good timing. Don't hold back in this battle. Kill as many as you can," Xiao Yao suddenly said before she made her move. Previously, he had been restraining Xiao Lao, not allowing him to do anything out of line. But now, Xiao Yao actually took the initiative to remind him to go on a killing spree and not hold back. This was very strange. Even Xiao Lao looked at Xiao Yao in confusion. In response, Xiao Yao smiled. Go. The reason why he told Xiao Lao not to hold back at all was because the current situation was not suitable for a fight. Tianjiao of the northern region had an absolute advantage in terms of numbers. Xiao Yao and Xiao Lao might be able to protect themselves, but what about Lin Shui, Xiao Wan, and Dongfang Lin? One had to know that the girls were far weaker than Xiao Yao and Xiao Lao. Once they were surrounded, it would be difficult for them to escape. They might even be in danger. Facing so many Tianjiao of the northern region, Xiao Yao did not dare to say that he could protect everyone. Therefore, he could only kill from the beginning until the Tianjiao of the northern region was terrified. Even though these people seemed to be united against a common enemy, their alliance was only temporary. It could be said that there were no ties between them at all, let alone feelings. It was fine when they had the upper hand, but once they realized that Xiao Yao and Xiao Lao were strong enough to kill them, many people would probably retreat. After all, although the treasures were good, their lives were naturally more important. No one wanted to lose their lives because of this. Xiao Yao's plan was very simple. It was to kill. Using a bloody massacre, he used the most straightforward method to tell these Tianjiao of the northern region that even if they joined forces, they would not be able to take him down easily. If anyone was not afraid of death, they could just come up. However, in the blink of an eye, the two sides engaged in a fierce battle. Xiao Lao and the sword maniac were the first to bear the brunt and charged directly into the crowd of Tianjiao of the northern region. With a long sword in hand, he turned into a killing machine. Although Xiao Lao did not think too much, since Xiao Yao had agreed, he naturally had no qualms about attacking. Xiao Lao, who had no qualms, was like a ferocious tiger that had been released from its cage. No matter where he went, people would be thrown off their feet. Damn it! Stop him! Several Tianjiao of the northern region had already been killed by Xiao Lao. Someone shouted loudly. They could not let Xiao Lao continue to act so recklessly. At the same time, someone else shouted angrily. You're all courting death. You've killed so many people in the northern region. Do you really not want to return to the eastern region? After killing so many Tianjiao of the northern region, it should be known that these Tianjiao of the northern region all had powerful forces behind them. Although their strengths varied, it was obviously not a wise move to offend so many forces at the same time. Unfortunately, such a threat might be effective against others, but it was useless against Xiao Lao. He was not afraid of these at all. So what if he had many forces behind him? Now that these people wanted to attack him in the northern spiritual realm, there was nothing wrong with killing them. You talk too much. Xiao Lao curled his lips and said after killing another Tianjiao of the northern region with a single strike. At this moment, the expressions of the Tianjiao of the northern region, who were still surrounding Xiao Lao, changed. None of them dared to casually attack, even when faced with Xiao Lao's gaze. These Tianjiao of the northern region even instinctively retreated. This was a sign of cowardice. As more and more people from Tianjiao of the northern region died at the hands of Xiao Lao, the others became more and more fearful of this murderous god. It cannot be helped. This person was too terrifying. An ordinary Tianjiao of the northern region could not even last 10 moves against him. They had long lost their initial drive. Fear meant that cracks had begun to appear in the alliance of the Tianjiao of the northern region. After all, humans would always think of themselves first. When they realized that things were not going well, they would naturally think of retreating. This was the current situation. Xiao Lao and the sword fanatic had relied on their terrifying killing to make these Tianjiao of the northern region fearful, causing them to think of retreating. Under such circumstances, the Tianjiao of the northern region did not dare to continue attacking. Some people had even slowly retreated to the edge of the main hall. Clearly, they did not want to continue participating in this matter. Even the Tianjiao of the northern region, who were besieging Lin Shui, Dongfang Lin, and Xiao Wan, had weakened their attacks. For a moment, the pressure on the girls was greatly reduced. Xiao Yao had achieved her goal. However, at the same time, the Tianjiao of the northern region, who had been entangled with Xiao Yao, had an ugly expression on his face. He did not expect that the morale of the northern region's Tianjiao of the northern region, which he had worked so hard to raise, would be forcefully broken by Xiao Lao and the sword fanatic in such a short period of time. It was a simple and straightforward killing. Killing until you were terrified. That was it. Aren't you afraid of incurring the wrath of the various forces in the northern region by doing this? The Tianjiao of the northern region's Tianjiao of the northern region looked at Xiao Yao with a dark expression and said coldly, "There were at least 30 to 40 people killed by Xiao Lao and the sword maniac just now. How could the forces behind these geniuses let the matter rest? Begging for collection, begging for monthly votes, begging for recommendation." Chapter 3180. After killing so many people from Tianjiao of the northern region, this matter must have blown up. However, Xiao Yao was unmoved by this person's threat. "So, you're saying that we should just stand there and let you kill us?" These people from Tianjiao of the northern region had attacked them. Could it be that Xiao Yao and the others could not retaliate? Although they knew that the deaths of these people from Tianjiao of the northern region would cause a huge uproar. After all, every person from Tianjiao of the northern region represented a powerful force. However, these matters were not for Xiao Yao to consider. He could just leave it to his father. "Do you really think that so many forces in the northern region can't take you down?" This peerless prodigy said coldly when he saw that Xiao Yao did not seem to care at all. Hearing this, Xiao Yao curled his lips as he attacked. "Isn't it too early to say all this? This is the northern spiritual realm. Those people can't enter. As for what happens next, we'll talk about it later." Hearing this peerless prodigy was furious. This group of people was really audacious. They did not even care about such a matter. Or did they think that they could do whatever they wanted because the Northern Imperial Palace was here? However, they did not think that once they aroused public anger, even the Northern Imperial Palace would not be able to protect them. This peerless prodigy was wrong. From the beginning, Xiao Yao and the others had never thought of the Northern Imperial Palace. They had never thought of the Northern Imperial Palace as their backing. Therefore, Xiao Yao and the others did not care about the Northern Imperial Palace's attitude at all. Cut the crap. Are you going to retreat or fight? If you want to fight, then continue. If not, then scram. Xiao Yao said bluntly. He was determined to get the 9 tokens. The alliance formed by the people from Tianjiao of the northern region was shaken by Xiao Lao and the sword maniac's attacks. More and more people chose to withdraw. Looking at the edge of the main hall, many people from Tianjiao of the northern region had already grabbed onto them and were watching the show. They did not dare to step forward and fight. They were truly afraid. No one was willing to risk their lives. Looking around, the peerless prodigy shook his head helplessly. At this point, there was actually no need for them to continue fighting. If they continued fighting, the Tianjiao of the northern region would only suffer more losses. He took the initiative to retreat. Seeing this, Xiao Yao didn't stop him. He smiled and directly stepped forward to collect the 9 tokens. With the token in hand, everyone naturally had no reason to continue fighting. Xiao Yao looked at the crowd and said, "All right, the rest is none of our business. Everyone, please continue." "Wouldn't it have been better if you did this earlier?" Xiao Lao chimed in from the side. They clearly knew that this was the result, yet they still insisted on fighting. Look, dozens of people died. They were really courting death. Seeing how relaxed Xiao Yao and Xiao Lao were, the people of Tianjiao of the northern region gnashed their teeth in anger, but there was nothing they could do. After all, the other party's strength was obvious. It was very difficult to deal with Xiao Yao and Xiao Lao. Even if everyone present attacked together and fought fearlessly, the end result would probably be a lose-lose situation. So what if they were unhappy? They could only grit their teeth and swallow their anger. No one responded. Xiao Yao and Xiao Lao didn't say anything either. They turned to look at Chuning. "Is there a way to leave this place? Or do we have to wait until all the tokens have been assigned before we can leave?" "We can only leave after the fight for the tokens is over." They couldn't leave this place for the time being. Xiao Lao pursed his lips speechlessly. This was really boring. A random group of people retreated to the side. Clearly, They had no intention of interfering. Let the people of Tianjiao of the northern region compete among themselves. The main hall was in chaos again. Everyone wanted to get the tokens, so naturally, they had to fight for them. As for the two top prodigies of the northern region, they naturally took the 2 tokens. That was for sure. As for the others, they could only rely on their own abilities. However, unlike Xiao Lao and the rest who killed directly, these people of Tianjiao of the northern region still maintained a certain level of restraint and wouldn't kill casually. They weren't like Xiao Lao, who didn't care about the consequences at all. They killed as they pleased and weren't afraid of causing any trouble. Xiao Lao complained unhappily as he watched the battle in the main hall with nothing to do. These guys are really boring. They don't even dare to fight to the death. It's as if they're sparring in the arena. They definitely have their concerns. However, I reckon that we've caused quite a stir this time. Dad should be in a lot of trouble. Can you blame us for this? They had killed so many people of Tianjiao of the northern region. It was indeed quite troublesome. However, Xiao Yao and Xiao Lao didn't care too much about it. Chuning listened to the conversation between the two. He had mixed feelings, but he didn't say anything. Now that things had developed to this point, Chuning had no other choice. Let alone him, even the entire Chun family couldn't help. Moreover, Chuning had a premonition that Xiao Yao and Xiao Lao would definitely cause even more trouble. With these two guys' personalities, it was probably impossible for them to get through this northern spiritual realm peacefully. They would definitely cause trouble again. They were really troublemakers. He wondered if they were like this in the eastern region. The fierce battle in the main hall was still ongoing, but the outside world was already in complete chaos. Since 2 hours ago, the tokens of the various major forces of the northern region had been shattered one after another. The owners of these tokens were all prodigies of the younger generation without exception. Moreover, they had all entered the northern spiritual realm. What exactly happened in the northern spiritual realm? Why did Tiana suddenly fall? Secmaster, it's not just us. I heard that the tokens of the Li and Qian family's young masters were also shattered. In one of the major sects, many people had gathered together to discuss the current situation. Many prodigies of the younger generation had fallen in the northern spiritual realm. This was something that had never happened before. Who would be so crazy as to start a massacre in the northern spiritual realm? However, it shouldn't be possible. The situation in the northern region could be described as complicated. The various major forces were intertwined. No one would be so irrational as to offend so many forces at once. It should be known that these prodigies of the younger generation could be considered the future of their respective sects. They had spent a lot of effort to nurture them. Now that they were killed, the various major forces would definitely not let this matter go. The northern spiritual realm, this time, is really strange. Why did so many people fall? Not only that, even Wang Xian of the Wang family was killed. I heard that the Wang family was furious and had already sent people to guard the northern spiritual realm. Yet, ever since Wang Xian was killed, the northern spiritual realm, this time, has become strange. Who is it that is wantonly killing in the northern spiritual realm? Begging for collection, begging for monthly votes, begging for recommendations. Chapter 3181. In such a short period of time, so many young sky prides have been killed. Naturally, the major forces began to pay attention to this matter. Although there have been sacrifices in the northern spiritual realm in the past, it was impossible for there to be so many people. Moreover, it was so concentrated. It was certain that the people who had died in Tianjiao of the northern region were not killed by the snow beasts. Even the Snow Beast King did not have the ability to kill so many people in such a short period of time. Moreover, the northern spiritual realm had just opened. Even the 4-level palaces test had not ended. No one had entered the core area. This made everyone even more certain that the incident that had happened in the northern spiritual realm this time was probably caused by someone. The major forces of the northern region were no strangers to the northern spiritual realm. With a guess in their hearts, more and more powerhouses began to rush outside, the northern spiritual realm. They were all people from the major forces. They came here to understand the truth as soon as possible. They did not know that the outside world was already in a mess because of their actions. At this moment, Xiao Yao, Xiao Lao, and the others were just like bystanders. They looked at the people who were fighting fiercely in the hall. There were fewer and fewer tokens. Out of the original 30 tokens, there were only 7 tokens left that did not have an owner. The closer it got to this point, the crazier everyone became. After all, no one wanted to give up this opportunity. On the contrary, those who had already obtained the tokens were very relaxed. They had successfully obtained the qualifications to enter the core area and were now watching the others fight. It was more like watching a show. As the last 7 tokens recognized their owners, the battle came to an end. At the same time, a door of light finally appeared in the hall. Looking at the door of light, Xiao Lao stood up and stretched. It's finally over. Shall we go now? It was really boring to stay in the hall. Now that the exit had opened, Xiao Lao could not wait to leave. Xiao Yao didn't say anything. He nodded, and the group walked towards the door of light. However, just as they were about to step through the door of light, the peerless prodigy from the northern region from before suddenly said, "Let's go. This time, you have killed so many people in the northern spiritual realm. I'm afraid that the outside world is in complete chaos. Be careful when you go out." There was a faint threat in his words. It was obvious that this elite prodigy was filled with resentment toward Xiao Yao and the others. Although he could not do anything to Xiao Yao and Xiao Lao in the northern spiritual realm, the strength of this group of people was simply too abnormal. However, it was impossible for them to stay in the northern spiritual realm forever. Looking at the current situation, once they left the northern spiritual realm, the major forces of the northern region would definitely not let go of Xiao Yao and Xiao Lao. Who told these guys to kill so many people so recklessly? Under the siege of so many forces, even if Xiao Yao and Xiao Lao had the backing of the Emperor Dong's palace, it would be difficult for them to survive. A cold smile flashed across his eyes. At that time, Xiao Luo said with a disdainful smile, "What? You want to fight?" Upon hearing this, the peerless prodigy subconsciously took a step back. He didn't want to care about Xiao Lao's conflict, because he was no match for them at all. The best way to deal with this group of lunatics was to wait until they left the northern spiritual realm and let the elders settle the score with them. It was obvious that Xiao Lao had just thought of this person's idea. The look of disdain on his face became even more obvious. If you don't have the guts, then speak less. Boring. This guy did not even have the courage to fight. In Xiao Lao's opinion, this kind of person did not even have the qualifications to be killed by him. Xiao Lao had never been interested in weaklings. After looking at this person with disdain, Xiao Lao turned around and walked into the light door. And it was this glance that caused the peerless prodigy's face to become so gloomy that water could drip from it. Damn it, I want to see how long you can laugh for. Once you leave the northern spiritual realm, who can protect you? He was a peerless prodigy and naturally had his own pride. However, just now he was actually afraid of Xiao Lao. It was the first time he was afraid of someone of the same generation. In addition, Xiao Lao's look of disdain and ridicule had deeply hurt this peerless prodigy's self-esteem. He did not want to, but he had to admit that he was indeed afraid just now. Looking at this peerless prodigy's expression, the other person beside him smiled bitterly and left. Although everyone hated Xiao Yao and Xiao Lao and felt that these Eastern region's prodigies were too arrogant. However, their actions just now had undoubtedly humiliated the northern region. The simplest thing was, if you did not have the guts, then why did you provoke them? Did you use the older generation's powerhouses to threaten them? If it was a normal playboy like Wang Xian, it would not be a problem. However, as a peerless prodigy, such actions would only be despised by others. Moreover, from the bottom of your heart, you were so afraid of them. It could even be said that you were afraid of them. After Xiao Yao and Xiao Lao left, they immediately rushed towards the depths of the northern spiritual realm. The 4-level palace's test has been completed. Can we enter the core area now? As they walked, Xiao Lao asked Shining. She was clearer about these matters than he was. Chapter 3182. Xiao Yao, Xiao Lao, and the rest naturally did not know who Wang Chong was. Seeing this, Lu Fantian quickly explained. Wang Chong is Wang Xian's elder brother. He is also a top prodigy among the younger generation of the Wang family. He is very powerful. Furthermore, this person is very vengeful and dotes on Wang Xian a lot. He will definitely not let this matter rest. After killing Wang Xian, another Wang Chong appeared. This Wang family really could not be wiped out completely. However, Xiaoya did not care too much about this. Since they dared to kill Wang Xian, they naturally did not care about the Wang family's revenge. If Wang Chong dared to come, they would just kill him directly. Not only Xiao Yao, Xiao Lao Jin also snorted disdainfully, his face full of disdain. Only Chunying had a bitter expression. This matter was getting out of hand. Furthermore, based on her understanding of Xiao Yao, Xiao Lao, and the rest, Wang Chong and the rest. If Wang Chong really dared to come for revenge, these guys might even dare to kill him. This was not an exaggeration. Xiao Yao, Xiao Lao, and the rest really had the guts. Not to mention Xiao Luo. He was a madman. Even Xiao Yao, who was usually sharp, was also a master who was not afraid of anything. However, compared to Xiao Lao, Xiao Yao gave people the feeling that she was a heavy sword without a sharp edge. She was not as sharp as Xiao Lao. Seeing that Xiao Yao did not take his words to heart at all, Lu Fantian also guessed something. He was speechless. He was not worried about the safety of Xiao Yao, Xiao Lao, and the rest. After all, no matter how powerful Wang Chong was, he was only on par with him and Wu Zhan. Even if Wang Chong invited a few more top prodigies from the North region, it would be difficult for them to be a match for Xiao Yao, Xiao Lao. But if Xiao Yao and Xiao Lao killed Wang Chong, then there would probably be no room for reconciliation. If the North Imperial Palace intervened for Wang Xian, the Wang family might accept it. However, if Wang Chong were to die as well, it would truly be a matter of life and death. After all, Wang Chong and Wang Xian were not existences on the same level. All right, thank you, Brother Lu. There's no need to worry about this matter. We'll settle it ourselves. No, Brother Xiao Yao, that's not what I meant. I'm saying that you can't do anything to Wang Chong. At this point, Lu Fangtian could no longer care about anything else and could only speak bluntly. He was not worried about Xiao Yao and Xiao Lao at all. He was worried about Wang Chong. She was worried that this idiot would die in the hands of Xiao Yao and Xiao Lao. However, Xiao Yao didn't reply. She didn't know if he had heard her. Lu Fantian sighed helplessly. He had already said what he needed to say. What happened next was not something he could control. After all, these two groups of people were not easy to deal with. One was a ferocious dragon, while the other was a local tyrant. Sigh. After sighing, Wu Zhan came to Lu Fantian's side and said loudly, "You're quite smart, kid. I say, you're usually quite smart. Why are you so stupid now? We can't interfere in this matter." Sigh. Hearing Wu Zhan's words, Lu Fantian did not refute. Just as Wu Zhan had said, he could not offend Wang Chong for Xiao Yao and Xiao Lao. Moreover, Lu Fantian definitely could not get involved in this matter. Although the factions behind Lu Fantian and Wu Zhan did not fear the Wang family, who would be willing to offend the Wang family over this matter. Moreover, the Wang family was a group of mad dogs. They would cause trouble even if they had no reason to. Now that their own descendant had been killed, they would not hesitate at all. They could only watch from the sidelines and stay out of this matter. Xiao Yao did not say much about Lu Fantian's choice, nor did she blame him. How could he expect someone he had only known for a few days to risk his life for him? That was obviously impossible. To be honest, it was already not easy for Lu Fantian to say those words. They waited patiently at the entrance, but as more and more people came, everyone looked at Xiao Yao and Xiao Lao with strange expressions. Many people began to whisper, "Are they the group of prodigies from the East region? They should be. These guys are in big trouble. I heard that they killed Wang Xian." Wang Xian? That Wang Xian? Who else could it be? That Wang Xian from the Wang family, Wang Chong's younger brother. Oh my God, don't these guys know Wang Xian's identity? Who knows? but I heard that Wang Chong already knows about this matter. He's probably rushing here. These East region prodigies are in trouble. They actually dared to kill someone from the Wang family. Sai, stop talking. It's none of our business, and it's not something we can get involved in. Just watch from the sidelines. In everyone's opinion, Xiao Yao and Xiao Lao were already a bunch of dead people because Wang Chong would never let them go. Even the prodigies who were in the same trial as Wang Chong at the East Pole Palace said that Wang Chong had already begun training the other top prodigies of the North region and was preparing to attack Xiao Yao and Xiao Lao. To be able to become a top prodigy, Wang Chong might be arrogant, but he was definitely not stupid. He had naturally inquired about the strength of Xiao Yao and Xiao Lao and knew that they were all top prodigies. Wang Chong naturally did not think that he could deal with a group of people alone. Therefore, Wang Chong needed help, and this was not a difficult task. Firstly, there were no conflicts of interest and scruples when killing prodigies from the East region. This would save a lot of trouble. Secondly, there was Wang Chong's identity. Between the foreign prodigies and Wang Chong, it should not be difficult to choose, right? Lastly, it all depended on whether Wang Chong's conditions were tempting or not. This was also the most crucial point. After all, no one would help you for no reason. Wang Chong obviously did the right thing on this last point. In fact, it was normal. In the past, whenever Wang Chong had a favor to ask of others, he was always very happy. The conditions he gave were almost impossible to refuse. They were extremely generous. If you want a horse to run, you have to feed it well. Wang Chong obviously understood this principle. The surrounding people were carefully discussing Xiao Yao and Xiao Lao. At this moment, a terrifying killing intent was constantly approaching from afar. Sensing this killing intent, Lu Fontaine's face darkened slightly as he muttered to himself, "It's still coming." Lu Fontaine knew very well who this aura belonged to. If it was not Wang Chong, who else could it be? Very quickly, just as Lu Fontaine finished speaking, several figures appeared in front of Xiao Yao and Xiao Lao. The person leading them was a handsome man with a gloomy expression. He wore a luxurious robe, but the killing intent in his eyes was extremely dense. As soon as he appeared, he stared at Xiao Yao and Xiao Lao. "You're the ones who killed my brother, Wang Xian? How dare a group of outsiders act so presumptuously in the North region? Do you really think that there is no one else in the North region? Today, none of you will leave the Northern spiritual realm. Begging for collection, begging for monthly votes, begging for recommendations." Wang Chong gave Xiao Yao and the others a lot of pressure. After all, no matter how strong Xiao Yao and the others were, it was impossible for them to deal with all the top geniuses in the North region. Therefore, to catch the bandits, first catch the ringleader became the best choice of the moment. Upon hearing his brother's words, Xiao Lao nodded and said to Wang Chong jokingly, "I wanted to play with you for a while, but it seems like I won't have the chance now. You're courting death. How dare you boast so shamelessly?" Hearing this, Wang Chong immediately shouted angrily. He threw out a formation disc and then retreated immediately. Wang Chong was completely different from Wang Xian. If Wang Xian was a genuine idiot, then Wang Chong was a genuine genius. Not only did he have many formation discs given to him by the Wang family, but his attainments in the Tao of formations were also extremely powerful. With various means, although Wang Chong could not be ranked in the top 10 among the top geniuses in the North region, he was definitely in the upper middle class. Unfortunately, he had encountered Xiao Lao. Xiao Lao's strength was in the East region. Not to mention the top 10, he could even be in the top 3. Therefore, Xiao Lao did not change his expression in the face of Wang Chong's formation disc. He only used the power of the sword realm instantly and enveloped Wang Chong in the blink of an eye. Sword realm? Wang Chong was quite observant and immediately noticed the power of the sword realm. However, if it was just the sword realm, Wang Chong would not be bothered. However, the sword realm was not Xiao Lao's trump card. Since Xiao Yao asked him to kill Wang Chong as soon as possible, Xiao Lao could only use some of his trump cards. Otherwise, he would not be able to take down Wang Chong. I'll let you see, Xiao Lao murmured softly. Soon, countless sword shadows appeared around him. Each of these sword shadows had a strong aura of sharpness, as if they could slash through everything. This was the innumerable sword technique evolved from Xiao Lao's heavenly sword embryo. As Xiao Chen's sons, Xiao Lao and Xiao Yao naturally had the heavenly sword embryo. This was basically the symbol of the Xiao family. If Xiao Chun had any children in the future, they would probably be born with the heavenly sword embryo. The heavenly sword embryo was recognized as the strongest body constitution of a swordsman. Its strongest point was its ability to grow. Every person who had the heavenly sword embryo had their own unique path of growth. The heavenly sword embryo would undergo different changes according to each person's personality. Take Xiao Yao, for example. After his heavenly sword embryo transformed, he gained the ability to see through everything. In other words, it could be said that he had the ability to predict the future. Although his attack power was not as strong as Xiao Lao's, it was still very strong. Chapter 3184. As they watched Wang Chong being swallowed by the sword shadows that filled the sky, screams could be heard continuously. After the sword image disappeared, the crowd did not even see Wang Chong's shadow. Not even a corpse was left. Everyone was completely dumbfounded by this scene. Wang Chong was dead? Only 2 hours had passed since the start of the battle, but Wang Chong had died, just like that. No one dared to believe it. No matter what, Wang Chong was a top genius of the northern region. Was the gap between him and Xiao Lao really that big? Of course, the most important thing was that everyone thought of what would happen to Wang Chong. Needless to say, after Wang Xian's death, Wang Chong's death would probably drive the Wang family crazy. It's over. There's no way for us to mediate. Even Wang Chong is dead. Many people murmured softly with complicated expressions, including the few from Tianjiao of the northern region who came with Wang Chong. At this moment, they also stopped what they were doing. The reason they took action was because of Wang Chong. Now that Wang Chong was dead, they naturally had no reason to continue fighting. Just as Xiao Yao thought, after Wang Chong's death, these people had no intention to continue fighting. How could a dead man fulfill his promise? Without any benefits, who would risk their lives? After all, they had no enmity with Xiao Yao and Xiao Lao. In addition, Xiao Yao and Xiao Lao were so strong. There was no need to fight to the death with them. That said, even though he had decided to stop, he still had a strange expression in his eyes as he looked at the crowd. How could these guys dare to kill Wang Chong? Were they not afraid of the Wang family at all? Or were they really out of control? Why? Not fighting anymore? Ignoring the strange expressions of these people, Xiao Yao looked at them with a smile. In response, the faces of these people were a little ugly. The leader even revealed an unnatural smile. Wang Chong is dead. We have no enmity with him. Naturally, there's no need to continue. No matter how the Wang family would deal with it, they were obviously unwilling to fight with Xiao Yao and Xiao Lao. Unfortunately, even though these people wanted to stop, Xiao Yao had no intention of doing so at all. He laughed coldly. No enmity? I'm afraid that's not right. You attacked us for no reason, and you're going to let it go just because there's no enmity between us? As soon as these words were spoken, their faces sank. What did this group of people mean? Could it be that he still wanted to attack them? Anger and fear flashed in their eyes. They did not doubt Xiao Yao's words. After all, they dared to kill Wang Chong. In other words, this group of people naturally dared to kill them. This was a group of audacious and lawless people who didn't care about the consequences at all. He had guts, but he also had strength. What do you want to do? Although these heavenly treasures weren't too precious and could be found in the outside world, they were still extremely valuable. Each of them could be sold for a huge sum of spirit stones in the outside world. But now, there were so many treasures here. It was no wonder that Xiao Lao was so shocked. No wonder the northern spiritual realm would cause countless geniuses in the northern region to scramble for it. Even Lin Feng nodded in agreement. As the other Tianjiao of the northern region entered, everyone's eyes were burning with passion in the face of so many treasures. However, in addition to this, their gazes were locked onto Xiao Yao and Xiao Lao. Fear and killing intent constantly flashed in their eyes. Everyone had already understood the overbearing nature of the Eastern region geniuses. Now, in the face of so many treasures, no one could guarantee that these Eastern region geniuses would not be tempted by the wealth and directly monopolize so many treasures. If that was the case, then they would definitely not agree. How could they let others take all the benefits and not get anything? Including the few top geniuses, their gazes fell on Xiao Yao and Xiao Lao. Needless to say, as long as Xiao Yao and Xiao Lao revealed that they wanted to monopolize these treasures, it would definitely cause public anger. At that time, everyone present would definitely gang up and attack them. Feeling the gazes of the Tianjiao of the northern region, Xiao Yao smiled and looked at Wu Zhan. Lu Fantian said, Brother Wu, Brother Lu, there should be a lot of good things in this core area. Why don't we set a rule? Brother Xiao Yao, please speak. Lu Fantian and Wu Zhan did not have any ill intentions toward Xiao Yao and the others. However, they obviously did not want them to monopolize the benefits. It had nothing to do with friendship. This was human nature. After all, everyone's relationship was not that good. At this time, hearing Xiao Yao's words, Lu Fantian smiled and replied, Actually, it's very simple. With so many treasures, it is impossible for anyone to monopolize them. In the future, if treasures are discovered together, such as these, then it will be divided according to the strength of each person. The stronger the person, the more they will get. As for treasures that are discovered by oneself, those who are fated to obtain them will know. Even if they are robbed by others, they can only blame themselves for not being as skilled as others. What do you think? Xiao Yao's words were actually very simple. However, after hearing this, Lu Fangtian laughed. Xiao Yao said this to tell the Tianjiao of the northern region present that regardless of whether they killed Wang Xian or Wang Chong, they did not intend to monopolize the treasures. Moreover, when she was speaking just now, Xiao Yao's gaze had been fixed on the expressions of the other top prodigies. There are many halls like this in the core area. Every hall contains an inheritance of a race. As long as you pass the test, you can obtain it. Chuning explained from the side. Upon hearing that it was a place of inheritance of a race, Xiao Lao instantly lost interest. When the 10 members of Tianjin of the northern region saw Xiao Yao and Xiao Lao's arrival, a look of caution and fear instantly appeared on their faces. Seeing this, Xiao Yao took the initiative to speak with a smile. We don't know a race, so we're not interested in the inheritance of a race. Don't worry, everyone. Hearing this, the members of Tianjin of the northern region secretly heaved a sigh of relief. There was nothing they could do. These murderous gods were too crazy. Who knew if they would suddenly go on a rampage and kill everyone present? It was best that they didn't compete. To be honest, if Xiao Yao and Xiao Lao were also interested in the inheritance of a race, the members of Tianjin of the northern region would probably choose to tolerate it. However, just as everyone heaved a sigh of relief, Xiao Lao lazily spoke. Big brother, we don't want it, but Chening needs it. Chening was an array master. Naturally, she wanted the inheritance of a race. However, she didn't expect Xiao Lao to say something like this at this moment. Hearing this, Chening looked at Xiao Lao with a puzzled expression. Big brother Xiao Lao, you've been following us for so long. You should at least gain something. You're not here to be a bystander. If there's an opportunity, naturally, you should fight for it. Please add it to your collection. Monthly vote. Recommend it. This palace is completely enveloped by a formation. Every night at midnight is when the formation's power is at its weakest. Only then will we have a chance to break it open. Break it open by force? That's right. But we have to wait until midnight when the formation is at its weakest. It turned out that the entrance could be broken open by force. Hearing this, Xiao Lao strode towards the entrance. Seeing this, Qining wanted to stop him. But before he could say anything, Xiao Lao had already slashed out with his sword. The tip of the sword hit the formation at the entrance hard. Heh, you overestimate yourself. At this hour, no one can break this formation. The other Tianjiao of the northern region naturally understood what Xiao Lao was trying to do. However, they were somewhat disdainful of it. They thought that Xiao Lao couldn't possibly break this formation. However, under everyone's gaze, as Xiao Lao slashed out with his sword, the formation was actually torn open. His voice suddenly stopped. How is this possible? Without midnight, how did this guy break the formation? Was he that strong? The crowd looked as if they had seen a ghost. This was ridiculous. They had been waiting here for several hours, but Xiao Lao broke the formation with a single slash. Thinking about how they had mocked Xiao Lao before, they felt a burning pain on their faces. They had been slapped in the face so quickly. This formation isn't as strong as you said. At this moment, Xiao Lao turned his head and looked at them strangely. You're not human. You're strong, okay? We're all trash. Seeing that the Tianjiao of the northern region had their heads lowered and didn't say anything, Xiao Lao instantly lost interest. He called out to the sword maniac and Chuning. Let's go in directly. What should we say? Are we going in? Seeing the three of them walk into the palace, one of the Tianjiao of the northern region looked at the others and asked. His voice was filled with anxiety. Yes, why wouldn't we? This formation legacy is a test of formations. Although Xiao Lao and the others are strong, they know nothing about formations. Why should we be afraid of them? That's right. As for Chuning, he's not that strong. There's nothing to be afraid of. The crowd said one after another. This formation legacy was naturally a test of formations. Xiao Lao and the sword maniac didn't know anything about formations at all. In their eyes, they were no threat at all. As for Chuning, he was even less of a threat. A mere disciple of the Chun family was nothing to them. Thinking of this, the Tianjiao of the northern region also entered the palace. In the main hall, Xiao Lao and the others had already activated a formation. At this moment, the three of them were trapped in the formation. Oh, as expected, they activated the formation as soon as they entered. Moreover, it's a trapping formation. It won't be easy to get out.